Also, Avatar's gone. Yeah, I know. I'm setting him up right now. Yo, Sweet Molasses Otter, how you doing? I'm having technical issues. Okay, YouTube's up now. I gotta make sure that's off. I gotta do a little bit of that. Ah, what up? You getting caught in ads? Is that why you're screaming? Give me a second here. I'm existing. Had a friend over for like 5 days. Damn. Okay, that's that. That's that. Okay, I think everything's up. YouTube seems to be working out. Alright. I haven't drawn in a long-ass time, guys. It's been like a fucking hot minute since I did some drawing. Mostly just saying hello, I'm going back to sleep, have a good stream. You're going to sleep? It's noon. You're like 6 hours early. This is way too big. Do you like having your friend over for 5 days? Was it good at least? Okay. I like the face on this guy. I just don't know about the hair. Whoa! Okay, that's his face layer. That's his hair layer. It was nice, yeah, just like a lot. Just like a lot in some ways. What do you mean? Just like not enough time alone or whatever? Sweet Molasses, you're probably back from the ads now, I assume. Alright, let me drop the Discord notification. KJK Comics, how you doing, big dog? What up? How's life going, man? Today feels like a good drawing day. I don't know why. I got a good feeling about today. Yeah, and it was the first time in years I had someone over. Did you take time off work for it, or did you just have like a lot of free time? What up, Snack? What up, NFT? How you doing, dog? Don't take me out. Is this the clothing? It is. Okay. I'm glad I layered everything. Doing good. Finished up the ink on one of my pages. It's kind of hard to get back into it, but it's nice just to get into the swing of things. How long does it take you to ink something? Are you working traditional or like digital? I don't know if I want the cape on this guy. I still kind of want to go pirate themed a little bit, so we're just gonna keep rocking with the pirate shit. Assignments, the usual, gotta lock in after Secret Santa. Yeah, fair. Fair. I mean, don't you're starting like a new semester now, aren't you? Weren't you like on break? Isn't that how like fucking school schedules work, dude? Am I tripping? What layer is this shit on? Oh. Working on CSP, but I still have bad habits from Paytool Sai. What's Sai like? I've never used Sai. You say bad habits. What does that mean? Is Sai just like very forgiving in a lot of ways or something? He sprints into the lead. Damn, you get the 35 stream streak. Crazy. I mean, you're gonna be in the lead. I think Sid's the next closest one. I need to make my movements a little bit quicker. You see the difference between these two lines here? Like, basically, like, doing something a little bit sketchier like this versus having, like, something tight like that. I feel like there's more appeal to me in, like, doing this sketchiness. But I don't know. Like, this one was all, like, quick, sketchy lines, right? And I feel like it's just textured better, is how I feel. But, Shazi, what up, dog? How you doing? Sai's more painterly, so the colors blend a lot more, but the rulers and brushes are plain terrible, so I'm used to hatching and drawing without specializing my brushes. Oh. I've always found, like, CSP brushes to be pretty normal, I guess. How's doodling going? Pretty good, dude. How's watching going? Because I feel like when every time I find like a brush that looks interesting, or I see someone use a brush that looks interesting, they're always using Photoshop. And it's like frustrating for me, because I want to try out the brushes, but I don't want to use Photoshop, because I just don't like Photoshop too much. It's not like any particular reason. I'm not used to it anymore, which is funny because I've probably used Photoshop more than Clip in my life. But it's been so long that I just like can't get used to it, you know? What a pretty face. Thanks, big dog. Mine or the character? I'm just kidding. I know you mean me. Whoa, this must be a channel record. Surely no one else did more than me. I mean, you could just scroll up 2 seconds and you'll see Jadu. He's crushing you, dog. You know what else is pretty? Yeah, you right. You right. It do be pretty. It do be. By the way, how do you rate a person? I tried rating Kasem earlier, but it wouldn't let me, and then when I asked him, he said he should have worked fine. He said it should have worked fine, and that I was a bot. Does he not recognize you? Aren't you in his stream like every day? What do you mean, he called you a bot? What? Yeah, he called me a bot because he finds it funny. Okay, like he wasn't serious or anything. Some channels, this is rare, okay, I've only seen this a couple times, but some channels have size restrictions on raiders. Like, when you tried raiding him, you type /raid, right? And then Kasem. I don't know how to spell his name. What is it? Kasem. It's literally just like /raid space and then their name. And then it should set up the raid. I'm gonna drop Nobody Knows Plus, just because I've been listening to them a lot again lately. They're very nostalgic for me. I don't really want to listen to anything like hardcore right now. Oh yeah, just wait. I demand my ASMR after everyone gathers around. Okay, you tell me. Tell me when. Yeah, but then what he said was that his stream settings do not allow me to raid at this time. Yeah, so it's rare. I don't do it this way. But some streamers, usually it's more common with like bigger streamers, but they set size restrictions on who can raid them, so they're not constantly raided by people with like one viewer or something. I don't, or you could also, it could just be that you can only raid if you're like verified. I don't know if that's a setting that you can toggle on or not. You shouldn't really be able to chat in my chat though if you're not verified, so I don't think that that's an issue. But it's probably maybe a size restriction on rating. That would be my guess. I don't know, though. Because there shouldn't really... Other than that, I don't know what else Twitch has implemented that would make it impossible to raid someone. But I don't know too much about it. It could also just be they turned off raids for, like, a certain time period. Sometimes if people are, like, locking in, they might just disable raids. Less common, I think, but... And usually streamers, when they have like a raid restriction, a lot of the time, like, I don't even think they notice. Because I remember when I was smaller, I tried to raid someone, and then I told them, I was like, hey, I tried to raid you, but I couldn't, and they were like, oh shit, what the fuck? And then they ended up just going in and changing their settings. So it's possible he just doesn't know. But if he called you a bot, maybe he does know, I don't know. Did he say what it was in his settings that didn't allow it? It was just me, Shazi, Shoddy, and Beef? I was probably too much of an unknown name tiny streamer. I don't think so. Like, you don't approve raids, right? Like, I don't get, like, a notification being like, such and such wants to raid you. It just kind of happens. Right? It's like out of my control. So I don't think it's because of who you are. Could be a size thing though. Could also just be that he has raids disabled. I have no idea, dude. I have no idea. I streamed these past 2 days. I've been having bots come in on both days trying to promote something. Yeah, I have a bunch of, like, keyword bans. Like, if you put, like, basically, there's a bunch of, like, keyword bans that I have, so you can't type certain words, because there were, like, patterns of bots coming in and being like, go to this link, and it would be, like, some link or whatever that would redirect you to some bot, like, purchasing website or viewer bot, like, website or whatever. And so we banned a bunch of those, and then I also have, like, I have a literal bot that just filters out, like, bots. I think it's called Serybot. S-E-R-Y. I think. Nightbot might also do it, too. Yeah, how do I prevent that? It was very annoying when I started streaming. Keyword bans, probably. Or get, hook up Serybot to your thing and just have it filtered out that way. You'll still get, like, 1 or 2 that slip through every now and then. Like, I still get some. But... Oh shit, Snack knows I'm a bot? Fuck. Frick. Are you a bot, Pete? But yeah, that's what I would say. Just get some sort of, like, bot protection device or something. Come on, save, bitch. You can't prove it? You're right, I can't. You know what? Engagement is engagement. Who cares? But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I think streamers do that I find a little weird. I feel like if you genuinely just, like, don't want people of a certain size to raid you, that's kind of weird to me. I guess I kind of get it, but I do find it a little strange. In Kasem's case, though, I don't know if that's the case, but... I know, I have seen that before, and I don't really get the logic, to be quite honest. I think if people want to raid, they should be able to raid, you know? I think the one thing that I find really annoying, and I just won't raid somebody if they have this, I don't like follower only chats. I I get it. People want to close off their communities. It's just I don't like it. I don't like it personally. But I think people can do it. You know, there's nothing wrong with doing it. It's just not my thing. I'm very, I mean, I guess you guys could tell at this point because I just don't do it ever, even though I probably should at this point. I'm very anti, like, self-promo, so I feel like putting up pressures for people to, like, follow or subscribe or whatever, it's just, like, it makes me feel icky. I don't like it. There's nothing inherently wrong with it. Like, if I fucking, like, gated my community so there's follower only, I don't think there's anything morally wrong about that, but it just feels like I don't like being like the only way you can interact with me is basically by being a follower. It just feels pretentious, I guess. I don't really know. I think some people do it because they don't like, maybe they've had issues with like fucking bullying or people outside of their community that are not very nice or whatever. I think different streamers like can sometimes foster different types of people coming in and sometimes don't have the best time in the world being able to monitor and control who chats and who doesn't in their community. So you end up in a position where it's like you get people that are maybe really nasty or whatever, and if you're not a really assertive person, it can be hard to manage that. In my case, though, it's not like a huge deal. I don't mind just fucking deleting someone, but I like how aggressive they are. Yeah, not even giving any time at all. I don't like follower only because in order for me to follow you, I have to engage and know the streamer and who I can do this without, and how can I do this without talking? Yeah, I get that. Yeah, that's more or less how I do it too. Like whenever I'm looking to raid, and if I'm checking out a new streamer's channel to raid them, I'll always check if they have follower only on and if they have a mic on. I don't really care if they have a face cam or not because we're in the art category. The visual aspect to me is like more around the art. And if they have a PNG tuber, it helps, but like it's not really a make or break for me. But I think like it comes down to like if they have follower only chat on and a mic on. I really prefer they have a mic on. But that's just because I like chit chatting, you know. I'm not gonna lie, I need to take the time to actually learn the stream settings because I feel like the easiest way is to switch on all auto protection, but it also becomes extremely restrictive very quickly, and I don't like it. I don't like it like that. I like when people spam emotes in the chat and say dumb stuff. Yeah, I get that, dude. I think for me, what you'll find is over time, because it's really hard if you start streaming, and if you're new to streaming, or if you're interested in streaming, there's this sort of like growing period where you don't really know what your style is. You don't really know how you're going to operate when you're live. You don't really know what's okay, what's not okay. Like when I went into streaming, my mentality was like, oh, look, I'm not like the most easily offendable dude when it comes to like people's personal opinions and stuff. So maybe I'll just let everything fly for a little bit. But then what I noticed is like some people go really hard and push too far, and then that starts confrontations, and then that becomes difficult to manage. And it's more like it's less the disagreeing opinions that I have issues with, and more now having to fucking manage people fighting each other in chat. That's why like I started restricting things a little bit. But you'll play it by ear, and you'll learn your style. You'll learn what works for you. You'll learn the degree of restriction you want to enforce, and like that's sort of how I would say it. Just play it by ear. When something like goes wrong, have like a little like a real talk with yourself and be like, how do we manage this going forward? Right? You're not going to get it perfect the first time. And oftentimes, if you have a lot of people chatting in particular, it can become really, really difficult to know what the fuck is going on or even who offended who. Sometimes it's like you'll see like a message of somebody being upset, but you didn't see the original message that upset them. And so it's hard to make a judgment in the moment, especially when you're doing multiple things. It's so you live and learn, and then you can just sort of pivot and change your ways from there, but I have it turned all the way off. It can backfire at any moment, just waiting for it. What are you talking about? The fucking, like, sensors? I can't remember what we have on. I could probably check what my, my banned words are, just out of curiosity. Just to give you an idea of what we've banned so far. Let's see. If I go to mod view... And you should probably actually, as a mod Jadu, you could probably actually see, if you go to Stream Manager, you can probably toggle into mod view and see what words I have filtered. Unban request, no. Mod actions, no. What is it? Predictions, auto mod settings. Custom, what do we got? Swearing. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure how to do this. Usually, honestly, I'm going to be real. Boba's kind of the one that manages all that shit for me, so... If it weren't for the mods, I would probably have, like, no filters. I just don't know how to manage my own shit, but... I don't mind having my mic on, but my laptop is fucking wheezing like it's about to take off like a helicopter. I feel like that makes me crazy self-conscious. Just add a noise gate. That's what I have. I have a noise gate on OBS, so if I'm typing on my keyboard, you guys don't hear like that sort of like decibel frequency. And so, like, that's why sometimes if I'm coughing, maybe my voice will cut out or something. Like, it's like the noise gate will filter out sort of environmental noises a little bit better than your mic can. Alternatively, you just kind of want better audio setup, but... I get people who are like, let's get rid of haters and bots with follower only, but it just makes it so that I as a new viewer, can't engage with the stream and know if I like it without following. Yeah, that's sort of how I feel, too. I feel like I don't really follow a streamer unless I've talked to them directly through the chat. Or, I mean, there are some channels, I guess, like some bigger ones that I've followed for sure. But I mean, generally speaking, if it's like the majority of the channels I follow and not like an exception, there are like... I don't really sort of follow someone unless I've engaged with that streamer in some sort of capacity. Just because I feel like, you know, that's sort of the value I get out of it. I'm not a big stream consumer in general, but, you know. To be honest, the only thing that's been mildly annoying is the random bot that I get every now and then. But so far, people have been chill. That's good, dude. I feel like 90% of the time, people will be chill. 95% of the time, people will be chill. I don't think I ever have situations where I'm like, fuck, this sucks. Managing these people sucks. Because, it's just not that frequent of an issue, you know? You know what? I think managing people was harder earlier on, but it's gotten easier as the channels, like, progressed, because you sort of, like, refine your style and the way you approach discussions and all that stuff, but... What's a corporate crony? It's like a dude who basically is like a supporter of corporate industry, I guess. That's sort of how I see corporate cronyism. Like, think of like I don't know, like a fucking tech bro or something like that. I'm like an ironic corporate crony. I'm not actually. I just say that because I hate my job and it's just funny to imagine myself as like the fucking career man, you know? The reality is I stream to get away from my job, but I have an aversion to promoting myself, so I make no money off it. So unfortunately, I overwork myself. One thing I actually did find quite useful is that when I set OBS to be always on top, I could put my chat in the top corner of my screen while I'm drawing, so I don't have to look at another monitor to see what people are saying. I don't actually look at OBS. I have Twitch open. Because it lets me toggle between basically, like, looking at my ads, looking at, like, my... Like, I like just working out of my browser. It's the same thing with YouTube. And in my case, because I have two separate chats, like YouTube chat, and, shout out to YouTube chat, by the way. But when I have YouTube chat open and Twitch chat, and so I gotta be able to look at both, and I don't have that functionality. Well, there's probably a way to do it in OBS, I just haven't figured it out. So I just kind of open both and split screen it. So I have half my screen is, like, YouTube, and then half my screen is Twitch. It's more like 80% of my screen is Twitch, and then the other 20% is just my YouTube chat. Flat is back? Oh, shit. We're putting him away, baby. Putting him away. I don't even know how I would get people to watch my streams anyways. Streaming's weird. I don't know that I know the formula. I think I think it really depends on sort of what niche you're in. In my particular case, because we're art streams, or because I'm an art streamer, you're gonna get a lot more viewership if your art is good, and it helps to have some sort of character. Before the PNG tuber, I was probably averaging around 6 to 8 viewers, and I didn't have a PNG tuber until May of last year. So for the first like year of streaming, I didn't have a PNG tuber, and I was averaging around like 6-ish, 8-ish viewers. Maybe at the max I was doing like 10. And then I did the PNG tuber, and within like a month we basically shot up to like averaging in the 20s. And then it kind of like flatlined around there. So I've just been hovering around 20, 35 in that range roughly, I think. Kind of bounce around a little bit, but old times, yeah. So I think having a PNG tuber helps in terms of like getting a viewer's attention, because it also means that whenever people are looking at your little thumbnail on Twitch, they see your PNG tuber and it's like more recognizable. Like if you're browsing through Twitch and you see my freaking little mouse character, you'll be like, oh, I see this guy all the time, maybe I should check him out, you know? It's just sort of like you see it so frequently that you kind of want to click on it at some point. The other thing that I think really, really helps, and this one's a little bit tragic. I don't really like saying that this helps, but it probably does. Be good at art. That's another big one. People don't really, like, in the art community, I guess, you know, maybe it's taboo to talk about, but I think if you're a good artist, or you're a above average artist, I will say, or if you like drawing hot anime girls, which I don't really do a lot of, but if you do like drawing big titty anime babes, that shit'll probably get you some viewers too. How do I tag not safe for work in Discord? Oh, we don't allow not safe for work in Discord. So there's no not safe for work in Discord, unfortunately. But yeah, so the other big thing is basically be good at art, and it's like that would apply to any category. Like if you're a fucking video gamer, you could either be entertaining as shit, or you could be good at video games, you know? If you're both, that's awesome. But you know, realistically, like you could those are the ways to sort of grow. Be skilled in like the thing that you're actually like streaming in, or be really entertaining. The be really entertaining part is a tough one. I don't really know. That one's a lot more subjective. Being good at something is a little bit more objective. Like if you're like top 500 in a video game or whatever, you're good, right? Like there's no question about that. You're gonna gain viewership just based off of that. If you're sort of like, you know, average in a game, but you're funny as shit, it's a lot harder to put my finger on what makes somebody entertaining to watch. Deleting it now, my bad guys, I didn't know. It's all good, big dog. Don't worry, you didn't know. You didn't know. Ain't no biggie. I don't have anything against not safe for work, Joe. And the reality is the entire Twitch community, or the entire Discord is an adult Discord. So you're not gonna destroy anybody's brain by making that little accident. So don't worry about it. But I think it's just because not safe for work is so diverse, and the amount of people that like have different interests of not safe for work stuff. I've just sort of outright said I just don't want it in the Discord, so I don't have to moderate it. That's more or less the reason. I don't have anything against it, so don't worry about it, big dog. You're good. We do allow I guess it depends on the degree of not safe for work. I think if it's like a study of some sort, or like some sort of like tasteful nudity, I'm not fully opposed to that. Like artistic nudity, I'm not opposed to that. If it's like anime smut, nah, probably not that. If it's any other kind of smut, maybe not that. Like if it's pornographic in nature, the answer's probably no. If it's just like an anatomy study, just spoiler it, you know? It's not a big deal. And if you're not sure, you can always check with the mod. Mods are pretty open about, like, just, you know, telling you what's good. Don't ask NFT, though, because I don't trust his judgment. But other mods, yeah, for sure. I don't even have a profile picture. Yeah, I relate to that, dude. I didn't have a profile picture for... Well, I did have a profile picture, but it was just not... What about tasteful pinups or fan service? I don't care about that. I think I'm talking about specifically about nudity. If you want to draw some slutty ass babe in a fucking bikini, I don't give a shit about that. I think it's more nudity. Just because that's sort of like where the hard line is for me. If you want to draw a chick with a fat ass and big tits, or a dude with a big bulge, I don't care. That's not gonna bother me at all. If it's covered up, obviously. If he's got a big fucking bricked up cock with like cum shooting out of it, maybe don't post that in the Discord. But generally speaking, I think if you cover up like whatever it is, it doesn't bother me too much. Well, the piece was from behind with one side boob showing. Side boob's fine. It's more like you know, the explicit stuff. I would appreciate any smut sent my way. Yeah, he's the smut tester, dude. We send them all to Jadu. That way, he can approve them. Gave her some covers. Looks great. Otherwise, excuse you, breaking my heart. Nah, I'm just kidding, NFT. I don't like it's. When it comes to like not safe for work stuff, I don't know where my line is really. My big concern is just sort of people running crazy with it and then being like, fuck, I have to start like cracking down on this shit. So that's sort of why it's like outlawed in the Discord, but it's not like a fucking personal thing. I mean, I have the giant tit redeem, so I'd be a bit of a hypocrite if I was anti not safe for work. To be fair, you did say the thing I posted before was fine for the just couldn't have it up on stream. I felt like that was pretty risque. Yeah, and I think that was fine. I think it's in the future though, maybe like I can't remember if you did or not, but spoiler stuff like that, I guess. Like if it's like sexually explicit, maybe just throw a spoiler on it without necessarily having nudity in it, but I surely posted something a little fetishy before, referring to the Drifter fan art. Look, I feel like the not safe for work stuff, to me, it'll be obvious if it's too far. You know? If it's like full-on nudity, just don't do it. You know? Unless it's like a tasteful art study. But if it's like, you guys know the difference between like fucking hentai art and just like an art study of like a life drawing thing. You know, it should be like there's a subtle difference between the two, but it's also not that subtle. You know, you can tell the difference. Also, it's not a huge deal, anyways. I'm not like that torn about it. You got to keep in mind when we originally started this community, we didn't have the age restriction that we have now, and so a lot of the rules that we set up or the style of the server was when we actually had people of all ages involved, right? And so, after reducing after elevating the viewership age to 18 plus, we kept a lot of that stuff, but it's, yeah, I don't know. Anyways. I surely posted something a little fetishy before. I read that. Yeah, my back was hurting so bad from rendering, so I just gave up for now. You know what? I think a solid way to think about it is if I can't show it on Twitch, probably don't post it. That would probably be a good like rule of thumb. And I know Jadu, your thing was definitely skirting the line. I would probably say avoid posting stuff like that. But yeah, anyways. Dude, I don't know what it is. This head just feels like such an awkward position. I don't know how to get like a body on him, you know? Strictly speaking, there was no nudity. It's just that it was very suggestive. Yeah, more or less. I think the issue with Twitch, and that probably wouldn't be TOS on Twitch, to be quite honest. Like, if I pulled that up on Twitch, I wouldn't get banned, but I would get flagged. And I think Twitch will flag channels as, like, mature, and then you have, like, a big spoiler on like, a big spoiler logo on your thumbnail on the Twitch Discovery, which is no bueno. So I just kind of avoid it if I don't have to do it, but... The goon lore? Exactly. No, it was just a lot of ass. Then I had realized the pants she had were vacuumed to her ass. It's okay. Just don't think about it too much, you know? Just don't post porn. That's it. Why does his head just feel so boring? But yeah, anyways, genuinely speaking, or generally speaking, if you want to sort of improve your streaming, have a PNG tuber or some sort of face cam or whatever. Something for the viewer to interact with. Even if it's just like a static image, it'll be better than nothing, you know? And then either be really entertaining or be moderately skilled in your niche. I think that's sort of how you kill the game. And just realize that you've chosen to be an art streamer, so you're never gonna be rich. Okay? Just accept that. Go into fucking just chatting streams if you want to be rich. Or gaming. And then hope that you win the lottery. If you want to make 50 bucks a month for the rest of your life, stick to art. It's the way, this is the way. I'm working on the biblically accurate angel just with titties. There you go. Bro's trying to get permanently, like, spoilered on fucking Twitch. I know it was my idea, but... I was at it for nearly 4 days and 3 hours till today. If I had known, I would have done something else. I'll put some clothes on her. Just too tired now. I want to chill for now. Oh, for your drawing? Whatever, man. Don't worry about it. Don't stress. You're stressing too much. Don't worry about it, dog. I ain't tripping. I ain't tripping. Kimdo, how you doing? Oh, you got your watch streak. I was so worried about you yesterday. Because we were doing the Secret Santa. And I didn't notice you in chat, Kimdo. And I was like, no, she's going to lose her streak, dude. Her precious streak. But I think you can redeem your streak now through VOD. So I assume that's what you did. Or you were just silently lurking while we were talking about your art. I was actually asleep. It was at like 6 a.m. for me. Oh shit, dude. Also, guys, I'm thinking about it pretty hard. I may cancel Monday streams indefinitely. I may reduce streaming to Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's a lot for me. I won't lie. With the doing like YouTube shorts and all that stuff, it's become a lot. Even before that, it was a lot, and I just think I'm like very exhausted all the time, and I hate Monday streams. I hated Monday streams even when I wasn't exhausted. I hate them even more now. So I may drop a little announcement saying that I'm going to get rid of Monday streams indefinitely, and then we're just going to drop to 3 days a week instead of 4. You hate streams? I don't hate streams. I hate Monday streams. The reason is because I stream all weekend, and then I go back to work on Monday, and then after work on Monday, I stream again. It's like, I feel like I don't get a weekend, ever. It's like kind of exhausting. You can? Yeah, you can, dude. You can totally not show up and risk your perfect streak of 35 streams. Dad's abandoning us? No, never. I'm not abandoning anyone. I've just sort of like I've noticed I've been a lot more like psychologically weak these last couple months since I started doing like the YouTube shorts and stuff. And I've had some personal issues in my personal life or whatever, but I mean like I have like no like I just feel like it's shit that should not be impacting me the way it is, and I really think I'm just kind of overworked a little bit. And so I think I need to pull off the Monday streams. It's the stream I hate the most, and I just don't like doing my Monday streams. So when will we get a mom though? That's the real question. Never. I'm just gonna be your single dad forever, dude. TV dinners and fucking throwing the old pigskin around forever. Boo, you lazy whore. Take the time back. Nah, yeah, I don't know. It's it is what it is. I mean, we were originally a three day a week stream for a while, and then I switched to 4, and I don't like it. You still gonna make time to draw on Mondays though? Probably not. I think that's a big part of it, is like, I feel like I also need time to do like YouTube shorts and stuff. Because right now, what it is like I end stream on Saturday, and then I'm scripting my fucking next short, like in like OneNote. I'm writing out my script, and then Sunday I'm recording my script after stream. My entire weekend is just like fucking streaming and making content. I have like no time. Like the shorts, they're like 50 seconds or whatever. But I still have to write a full script. I have to do research on like the subject I'm talking about. I have to plan like the sort of like the beats and stuff, and then I have to prepare like a package. Like I'll show you my I don't know where it would be. It would be it's not this one, is it? No, it wasn't this one. I'll show you what the packages look like for my shorts. Where the hell is it? Oh, maybe it is this actually. I guess I did my Secret Santa in here. But like this is not a good example. This is gonna be the next short where we're gonna talk about sort of like color relativity and shit. Okay, you know what? What is this? I hope this isn't porn. I don't think I have any not safe for work clip files, so I'm hoping that what I'm opening right now is actually what I think I'm opening and not something horrible, but we'll find out in 2 seconds. No, this is literally what I have open right now. It's not what I want. Maybe I didn't save it, but a lot of stuff goes into these packages. I'll show you the folder. So this is, where is it? Content, videos. Ah, there we go. Actually, this is it. Yeah, so this is... Oh, this is just the squirrel one, actually. That's not it. Never mind. But essentially, this is the entire package that I prepare when I send my thing over to an editor. So I have all of this stuff inside of a folder, and I have to prep this over the weekend. So I have to prep, like, basically every single layer, and then I have, like this is like the audio. Then I send them the recordings. There's also a script that I have them follow. I'll show you the script. So this is, I'll make this bigger, but this is everything that I send to an editor. Okay, so I have to prep all this shit over the weekend. This was just like the recent one. The script looks like this. It's basically a 2-page document. So I send them a script. The script looks like this. And this is after I do all of the research and stuff. So I have to actually like gather research. Everything in red is like a direction that I want the editor to hit. And so there's a lot of planning that goes into like every single one of these shorts. So it gets really tedious to stream all weekend, write this fucking script, do all my recordings, plan the editing package, send it off to him, just to have a new reel every single week. And so with the Monday stream as well, I just do a lot of shit, you know? That's sort of it. So it's just a lot. It's just a lot. You still gonna make time to draw on Mondays? I read that already. Yeah, 3 days is more than enough to take it easy. I mean, it's more consistent than anything I've done so far. What are you talking about? The streams? Or are you talking about the streak? Hello, what up, Sid? How you doing? Make sure to comment on someone else's art with the lessons. Stuff like that really drives up the engagement. One thing I've been doing now is basically trying to make references to, like, real-world IPs, like things like Nintendo and shit. Because I feel like that sort of, like, hits, like, an emotional beat for a lot of viewers in the reel. And if you've noticed, I use a lot of, like, video game music, because I feel like that also helps sort of, like, draw people in. But I have, like, a little bit of a formula that I follow right now with my reels, and I'm going to try and keep repeating it as much as I can. The next one is going to be a little bit more educational, less Pokemon focused, but yeah. Do you think you can make a short on anatomy, or do you think there's too much information and make it into a 1 minute? Well, right now I'm working on a script for a long form video on hands. That one I'm still doing a lot of research for. So when I say research, I'm reading through. I have a bunch of books on human anatomy. One of them in particular right now is George Bridgman that I'm working through. So for the past, like, month, I've been drawing Bridgman's lessons in, like, a sketchbook and pen. That's another thing, right? So I have to actually practice what I preach. So I'm doing all this stuff to prepare for a long-form video. And so, you know, I'm studying the lessons. I'm trying to memorize the lessons so that when I'm talking about them in my shorts, I can actually explain what the fuck I'm talking about. Smitty Sloth, thank you for the follow. Welcome in, big dog. But I am writing a script out for a 10-minute video, and the idea, Jadu, for the 10-minute video is I'm basically going to structure it as if it's 10 shorts, and I'm just going to basically cut it up into a bunch of, like, different shorts. It's going to be kind of like rapid fire information, really, really dense content. That's sort of my idea, but anyways. So what are your 2026 resolutions / goals? For me, it's get back to weightlifting, which is a huge one, because my shoulder's finally healthy again. I'm going to be able to start lifting this year. And then the other one is post long-form content and probably think about monetizing my online activities a little bit more. Because right now, outside of subscriptions and ads on Twitch, I make no money. And those just don't really sustain anything. And I would like to be able to pull away from my job one day. I don't know if it's ever going to happen, but I've been yapping about it long enough. I got to actually start trying to think on how I got to market myself. Maybe I'll do a course. I don't know. The thing is, it feels scummy doing, like, a course. I don't know how you guys feel about, like, people who sell courses online. The course salesman world feels shady to me. But at the same time, I think I could actually design like a high value course. Like, I think I have the qualifications and the knowledge to actually provide value to a lot of people. So I think if I did sell a course, my goal is to not make it like grifty, you know? I don't want to be a grifter. I want to actually, like, provide value to people. But I think that is sort of the direction I could take. Merch may be something I'll look into as well. I don't really know. I'm sort of exploring different ideas on what direction I want to go and how I feel about doing certain things. But what about you guys? Any big plans this year? I don't really like this fit. I'm also just going to keep drawing some heads, I think. You've been having a fever since last afternoon? Oh, shit, dude. Do more art studies, survive with my job, and try to focus on incorporating art into my life. Noble goals, dude. I want to reach I want to bench 250 this year, bro. Can you even bench like one plate? How long have you been lifting for? I lifted for like two and a half years when I was like consistently when I was going hard, and the strongest I got was probably 235 on my bench. 250 is kind of crazy. You want to write a bunch of art books, finish a portfolio for the project that you've been working on and have been that I've been critiquing, find a job that pays me to do art, and learn to be a good streamer. Those are all good goals. And if you ever have any questions, I mean, I try my best. I don't know if I'm like the fucking most awesome streamer in the world, but I try. So if you want feedback, let me know. Or if you want advice. Oh, and also exercise. I'm hopping back on that wave, and I'm gonna get my six-pack back. Hell yeah, dog. You get that fucking... the cum gutter, dude. I know what you're talking about. I can already bench 175. 250 is a big jump from 175. It's big. It starts to really, really get grindy once you're, like, in the 200s. I want to get better at human anatomy as well. Me too. I want to be able to draw more accurately with less friction. That's my big issue with my drawing, is I can produce good art, but I feel like I have to search too long to actually get the good art, and I can't bang it out instantly. And I don't really know how to train myself to do that, but it is something I would like to do. Consistency is really what I want to improve on. And speed. Am I the only one who isn't going to exercise? Exercising's the normie goal, dude. That's where it's at. In my case, it feels dumb to say, like, oh, you know, my New Year's resolution's to exercise more. It's just sort of, like, coincidentally at the time that my shoulder's, like, getting better where I can actually start lifting. It wouldn't really matter if it was New Year's or in, like, 6 months from now when my shoulder's better. But, oh, dude, I do not like exercising. You're not alone. Why don't you like exercise? It's just like the time it takes, or the effort, or like what is it? I've always loved exercising, so for me it's kind of like torture not being able to. Exercising's torture. I like being stationary. Okay, fair. Morning, everyone. What up, Dizzy? Whoever likes to exercise is in the same category of insane as those who go jogging outside in the snow. No. I feel like that's on another level. I do not like cardio. I do love fucking exercising, though. I like weightlifting in particular. I just like it, because it's like, when you lift weights, especially if you're a guy... Well, if you lift weights in general, this isn't really like a guy thing. But when you lift weights, you get like a pump, okay? And when you look at yourself at the pump, it's basically like looking in the future. What you're doing is you're being like, this is what I will look like in like a year, okay? Like permanently. But it's for a temporary period of time. And so when you get that pump at the end of the workout, you're like, oh yeah, dude. This is the direction I'm going, baby. This is where we're headed. And so I love working out. It's just basically, it's like being able to see the future, but with you being jacked. It's so sick. So you're exercising because you're a narcissist? Well, yeah, and because I'm vain, obviously. You think I exercise for me? No, I do it for external validation. Guys, if I ever start posting thirst traps on the internet, it's not because I want to feel good about myself. It's because I want attention, okay? Don't ever kid yourself on that. I like rollerblading, and that's the most I'll do. I love rollerblading. What if you undersell it? What are you talking about? I don't get like a rubber's high, like I used to, but I'll do activities. I really should do some exercise though. Bro, I guess if you jerk off, you are kind of getting like a rubber's high. It's kind of what coming is, but Snack, I found your secret OnlyFans account. You're already posting thirst traps. I would never jeopardize my job like that. Unlikely. I like my employment. I like being employed. I don't like my job. Now, I'd probably get fired. I don't think I could do my job and have an OnlyFans. I like skateboarding, but I have an electric skateboard, so I don't have to do much of the pushing. Nice. The only thing I'd say I like is to hike in the forest on those trails, but that's about all. Okay, so you're making fun of me for wanting to weightlift, but you want to travel into the middle of the fucking woods and climb on rocks. And I'm the weirdo? Alright. Alright, dude. Back when I used dating apps, one of the things that drove me insane was the amount of people that put like hiking as their hobby in their bios. It drove me crazy. I was like, there's no way this many people like hiking, bro. It's just, this is not real. This can't be real. I'm being fucking gaslit right now. Hiking is so buns. Sorry. Amen. That's what I'm saying, Kim, though. I could get hiking, like, every once in a while. But regularly? I don't know, dude. I don't know about that one. I think this girl needs a little bit more of a chin here. Damn, 4 viewers on YouTube? What's going on? Guys, don't tell me it's you guys just fucking with 2 tabs open. You're gonna break my heart. I thought I was actually popping off. It's like I put so much effort into entering the woods, and now I have to leave, too? I live in Canada. I feel like I would be fucking eaten by a bear or some shit, dude. The silliest concept of self-defense to me is, like, bear spray. I'm sure it works, and I'm sure it's, like, the most fucking heinous thing to an actual bear, but the idea of the only thing protecting me from getting, like, mauled to death by a bear is a little bit of cayenne pepper is just, like, terrifying as a concept. I don't know. You know? If I was a bear and some motherfucker maced me, I'd fuck him up. But maybe it's super effective. I don't know. Honestly, I'm more scared of coming across a moose than a bear in Canada. I feel like a moose is terrifying. Yeah, I mean, they're both really fucking scary. I feel like bears are probably more aggressive, though, than a moose. A moose is probably territorial, but a bear will just, like, fuck you up for fun, dude. Okay, this lady needs some hair. Let's give her some hair. Last year, me and my buddy, who actually hikes, went on a trail, but we gambled about not needing snowshoes. There was a lot of knee to waist high snow wading. Oh shit, eh? I haven't used snowshoes since I was in like elementary school. Okay, let's do... If her face is on this layer, let's do her hair on this layer. We're gonna use a different style. Let's do... I don't think I could take a bear even with the shotgun. I think you could take a bear with a shotgun. I think it'd still be like terrifying, but I think if you have a shotgun, you can take most things. Other than like maybe a drone. If we're power scaling, I think a human with a gun is a lot worse than a bear for sure. Bears are still like a terrifying force of nature though. Moose, from what I understand, will basically just decapitate you if you hit them with your car, because they just rip the whole top half of your car off. My friend had an encounter and he had to use it, but the wind was just right that he caught some of it too, and he got fucked up. Lucky he got away, okay? Yeah, that's crazy, dude. Okay, so at least it works. Because to me, it's like when somebody's like, yeah, you're gonna go into the woods, and the only way you can defend yourself is with a fucking little bit of pepper spray. It's like... Really? We don't have better technology for handling bears? This eye's in a weird spot. Needs to curve more too. Just so it feels like it's on an actual eyeball. The issue right now is it feels kind of like weird. I think I need it to be a bit more centered. But then that bottom lid's gonna need to change positions. Now, could you explain forearm anatomy to me? For the life of me, I can't figure it out. Wrist twisting of the muscles confuses me. Ooh, that one's a tough one for me. I'm not like super knowledgeable about forearm anatomy, but I'll explain to you how I think about it. I think about it more as like the contour curves than anything, rather than the actual muscles themselves. My understanding, and I think you know what we could do? We could always just do what I say, which is if I don't know, pull up a diagram. But I'll explain to you sort of what I think about when I think about forearm anatomy, and then I'll jump into a more like medical origin and insertion explanation. But bears are crazy fast, dude. You gotta be very fast. You're not outrunning a bear. Never. Don't even try, okay? Bears are insanely fast. There's videos of them sprinting up trees. And these things weigh hundreds of pounds. And they run up trees like they're running on flat land. It's crazy. But basically a forearm, or the common mistake of the forearm, is the people treat it symmetrically. So people will do two curves like this. With the apex of the curve, when I say apex, I just mean the peak of the curve, like the highest point on the curve. Okay? They put them in the same spot. But the reality is, when you're doing a forearm, the apex of the curve needs to be offset. So this would be bad. This would be a mistake. Okay? The way you want to approach a forearm is with offsetting curves. So the first one could be like this, and then the bottom one is going to be like this. So you've got sort of this angle here on the apex of the curves. And that's sort of how you get that more organic feeling forearm and less flat feeling. You offset the peaks on the curve. And so when you're doing the arm from the side, it's going to look something like this. Right? Where the top part, I think, and I'm going to look at my own forearm, the top part is closer up. Now, for forearm anatomy, I'm pretty sure the forearm inserts up on the humerus bone, or starts anyways, which is the top part of the arm. So your arm has two bones. You've got technically three bones, but you've got your humerus up here. And then you've got is it your ulnar bone and your radius bone here? These two bones, and then these are the ones that sort of like fold over each other. These are two separate bones. So you got one, and I'll double check this after. I'm just going to try and go off memory here, but 1, 2, 3. Your forearm muscles attach to primarily these two, but then they also attach to this one here. And they attach around here, behind the bicep. And the reason is because with these bones being attached, or these bones allow the muscle, when it contracts, to pull your arm up and down. Okay, so up and down. And so if you're drawing a forearm, if you want to add a little bit more detail, typically what I'll do, just color picking that color there, is I'll start with the deltoid. So we'll do the shoulder here. Right, and then from here, you've got sort of the chest, and then from the chest insertion, you've also got the bicep that comes down here. And the bicep will do something like that. Tricep. Brachialis muscle. And then your forearm is kind of like right here, and it inserts or tucks into the bicep underneath it. And then it runs down the arm. Kind of like this. And then I think there's like three basically like main muscles here on the forearm. Or on the... This is how I think about it. And then the bicep tendon goes between these two muscles. I think. I think it's something like that. If you're drawing like a hand or whatever. I'm going to pull up some medical charts here so we can double check this. But that's kind of how I think about it. Forearm, origin, and insertion. I just gotta find one that actually, like, looks good. Some of these are not very appealing to look at. Yeah. Okay, so let's do this. So that's more or less what I was talking about a little bit here. If you look... you can't actually see the insertion point very well. But you can see how it's connecting up on this... Like, imagine there's a bone here. Your humerus bone, right? And then you've got your ulnar and your radius bone going into your hand here. But it attaches up on this. That's where this is originating from. And it's connecting down to your some sort of bone in there. I think it's I can't remember which one's which, but... And then this one, again, like I said, is attaching to this bone. I don't know why it looks like it's attaching to the elbow here. Maybe it is. Let me see. Let me look up a different diagram. Yeah, no, it's attaching to the humerus. Okay, that's what I thought. So here's a better diagram of like where it's attaching to. So you can see the forearm muscle is attaching to the humerus, okay, this bone here. And then it's connecting onto the ulnar and the radial bones here. And what it does, it allows you to sort of move your arm up and down. Because when these muscles contract, they pull the bone up, basically, right? And so, yeah, like I said, the common issues are people flattening out the shapes, like this, where you really want to offset the shapes. So your forearm is going to have sort of like offset bumps. I'm trying to think. How would I draw a forearm? Something like this, most likely. And then if you want to add the detail, you can sort of do something like that. But that's how I think about it. Hopefully that gives you some sort of like rounding to work your forearm off of, but... Mal Populare over on YouTube says, you should totally draw your character in a bikini. Which one? There's like a billion different characters here. Is this the back of the hand? Not palm, right? Well, this is the palm. So this is the bottom view. This looks to me like it's the top view. So these are the opposing views, essentially. So this muscle here, I assume, is this one. Like, it's one of these in here. There's a lot of muscles in there. Can you draw me in a bikini? No. Not on the house. Hello, what up, HDMZ? But yeah, that's sort of how I think about forearm anatomy. So hopefully that gives you something to work off of. I really should learn, like, all the bones of the forearm and shit. It's just, like, kind of annoying. Thank you, Snack. No worries. I'm just gonna erase all this. I don't need these guys around. Oh yeah, guys, what do you think of the concept of a community art fight? Yeah, like tournament. I haven't really built out the full idea yet, but I think it would be an interesting community activity. I don't know if I like that, dude. I don't wanna have people voting on whose art is better than other people's art. I feel like that's a good way to make people feel bad. I don't really like that, to be quite honest. I'm just gonna say probably not. If you have ideas you want to run through, run them in the mod chat, and we'll sort of approve them there. But I don't know that I really like the idea of doing like a community art fight. Unless I misunderstand what you mean by art fight, but if it's like a tournament ranking where it's like people's art is better than others, I don't want that. What if there were teams? I still don't like that. Who... Is that worse? I don't think it's worse. I think look, the reality is when you organize for an event, there's going to be a large majority of people who don't participate. And so if you do a team-based thing, what happens when 40 or 80% of a team doesn't submit anything, and then the rest of the participants are basically now screwed or in an awkward position where we have to recalibrate like teams and stuff like that. It gets really messy. Anything that sort of pits people against each other in terms of like who's better and who's not, I don't want that. If it's like something like art homework or whatever, that doesn't bother me. Or if you guys want to do like study groups, you guys can do study groups. But if it comes down to like, let's do a competition and vote on whose art is the best, I don't want that. I'll be back grabbing food. Yeah, no worries. Do your thing, big dog. Let's have teams of just one person in one team and 15 in another. Yeah, everybody versus me. No. I was in one for someone's stream. It was the most fun I've had drawing. I think it just depends on the person. Some people might really like that. Some people are very competitive. I personally am very competitive. I don't have a lot of time to participate and stuff like that, but I am very competitive, so I can see the appeal of it from my perspective, but I know generally speaking, I don't know that everybody would be sort of in the same, like, mental state as I am when it comes to, like, art or whatever. I think if anything, I think anything that'll end up being, people comparing their art to others will end up making people feel bad. That's my guess, too. I'll be back grabbing food, do your thing. It's like someone who's been drawing since for 5 years versus 40 years old, whose first year is art. Their art will be different, and they will learn from different people. I don't know what I just read. Give me a second here. It's like someone who's been drawing for I think I know what you mean. Like, it's somebody who's been drawing for 5 years versus 40 years, and how their art will compare between the two. Yeah. It's just not really gonna be fair. I know I'm not that good yet. My main goal for supporting Jadu's ideas is so I can see where I'm lacking and ask how to improve on them. Yeah, we already have that. We have a critique channel, you know? I don't think we need, like, a community contest to do that. I think if we're doing anything community-based, it's not going to be competitive. I don't want some sort of, like, competition, unless it's, like, really, like, a for funsy type thing, and not, like, a I'm competing versus other chatters type thing. I also think people really underestimate how much chatter participation is realistic. Like, for the Secret Santa, we had a lot of participants, but we also had a lot of people who didn't submit anything that had shown interest in participating. And so events get really messy to organize. And if you do team-based stuff, you have to be ready with a contingency plan for people not submitting things. Because people just have different things that come up in their life. They might forget. They might have, like, responsibilities, and they just can't submit anything. You know, there's a bunch of different things that could pull somebody away from, like, an online thing, you know? I like a more wholesome kind of event instead of a competition. I think what we could do is just do like an art showcase or something like that. Like, you know, set a date, and then if people want to just show off like their favorite art or whatever, or things that they like, that we could do that. I don't know that I necessarily want to do events regularly because they're difficult to manage. But my main downside for critiques is that it makes me feel bad about my art, or that I need to put more effort with the lack of time I have. You mean like my critiques? That's fair. That's sort of a reality, I guess, that people need to contend with art, and I definitely feel that with my own art. You know, where it's like, man, I wish I had more time, or I wish I was focusing more on this particular aspect. Uh, I don't think you can really avoid that sort of negative emotion when it comes to receiving a critique. I try to minimize it when I give people feedback, depending on the person. Some people I know can handle the tough love, and sometimes you got to be a little bit nicer with people. It just depends on the person. But generally speaking, critiques are probably a positive thing. But I just got back. What are you talking about? We're talking about setting up another art event of some sort, and setting it up in a way where, you know, it's not chatter versus chatter. I don't want any like competition-based events. I like the idea of an art showcase from time to time. That's sort of my idea. I'd be fine with an art showcase. I don't want any competition-based stuff or anything where if a person doesn't participate, it ruins the event. Team-based stuff just kind of takes too much commitment. It has to be something where we have to be okay with somebody not submitting anything. I'm shameless. I don't care how harsh the critique is if I can learn from them. I think for me, my issue with critiques is I think sometimes, like when I give feedback, I try and give feedback that I think is going to be the most value to that person. And I think sometimes when beginner artists in particular give feedback, they nitpick things that I just don't think are that important. And I just don't know that, like, not every person gives feedback equally, and so I hesitate to ask for feedback because I feel like I'm always trying to get feedback from for very specific things, and I feel like you need to seek out people who have a really strong expertise in that specific thing for them to be able to confidently talk about it. I think a lot of people, when I look at other discords for other art groups or whatever, and I see people giving feedback, I'm gonna be honest, like 85% of the time, I kind of disagree with the feedback that people give. Um, and so I'm very, very, very picky with feedback, and I think like people need to. I don't know. It's very tempting for somebody who's a beginner artist to offer feedback, but sometimes it's tricky because I feel like to give good feedback, you need a good observational eye for art, and if you're not at a high skill level, it's very unlikely that you're going to be able to have the ability to actually identify the issues that people need to work on. Is my instinct. Now, maybe that's just me being a dickhead, and maybe that's me just being like pretentious and being like, oh, you know, if you're not a certain skill level, you shouldn't give feedback. But I really do think that, you know, most feedback I see people give online is just not great. Personally, that's how I feel a little bit. Feedback, just do more art. Yeah, exactly. Just draw more. What are you waiting for? I kind of have a complicated feeling when it comes to being critiqued. I genuinely want to know their opinion and improve my stuff, but I also feel shame on the inside while listening. Really, I don't think I think, you know what? It's probably because I went to art school and I worked in animation. You just kind of get used to it. Like when you work in a studio, every single week you have a new meeting with your supervisor and he goes through all of your scenes and he just tears them apart. And then he gives you a list of things. In my case, it's always like a bullet. It was always a bulleted list. And then he would send me back and he'd be like, "Yeah, go fix the shit." And I remember at the time there were so many instances, and this is sort of where my opinion comes from. Okay, there were so many instances where I would get feedback back, and I would be like, "He's wrong. Like I don't see what he sees." But then as I got more experienced and I looked back on my previous work with a more developed eye, I would look back and be like, "Oh my god, he was totally right, and I see what he sees now." Right? And I feel like art is a very, very weird skill where you actually need a certain amount of skill, observationally at minimum, to be able to actually identify the things that people need to correct. And I don't think it's very obvious to people that just aren't quite as advanced. I think some things might feel like they deserve more focus, but they're really not the thing that's taking away from a person's art piece. Um, and sometimes it really is the subtleties that change a person's art. And I think sometimes like it's difficult to say, you know, I don't know. It's just tough with feedback, but Yeah, every time I give feedback, I'm like, you might want to do this instead, unless what you did was on purpose, then ignore me. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that too, right? And there's an aspect of subjectivity to art as well, so you gotta be careful with that as well. But no, I would agree with that sentiment. It's like having a professor of a class be absent and then a student volunteers to teach the class. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it. Um, but I also don't want to be like elitist and restrict people from providing feedback if they think that, if people want feedback or whatever. Like, I've noticed there's some stuff in the critique channel right now. I don't know if anybody is in the chat that's posted in critiques that wants me to go over their stuff. I could do that. I noticed there's some stuff from Joe, or is it Joe, I think, is Joe Linpole, is that it? I think we got some stuff from Joe in there from last week. We got some stuff from Knifey Man. We got some stuff from Symphony. If any of you guys want feedback and you're here right now, I think Joe's kind of the only person I saw today, but if you want feedback, Joe, let me know. I can go over your work, no problem. But I feel like sometimes, sometimes the correct fix is not obvious. My thought process is that I don't have time to filter the critiques given to me or the time to feel bad / shame about my art. I'm an art illiterate right now, so I can't make my ego a problem. Yeah, that's a good mentality to have. Detach yourself from it, because it'll make it easier. And then just, if you find somebody who's more skilled than you, willing to give you feedback, listen to them. I really do think when it comes to art feedback, like, it really, like, the more skilled you are, the more qualified you are to give feedback, I think, is my opinion. But Joe, if you want me to look at your stuff, I'll give it a little look. I'll give it a little look-see. You want me to go over your, what looks like, the chick from Arcane. I forget her name. I don't know if it's the chick from Arcane, but it looks kind of like her. Jinx? That's it. Let me know if you want me to go over it. I wonder what happens if I just paint with, like, just like a brush here. Just, like, actually just, like, draw the hair. Like, color it in. Could you critique my critique? Did I look at it right? I don't think you're wrong. I don't know, Jadu. I don't know that I fully agree with your critique. I don't think that's the focus that I would have given. I don't think the shadow really matters that much. I think stylistically the shapes are fine with the shadow. I think you mentioned that it looks like it's lit from the side. To me, it looks like it's top down lit. I would have put you could do like a softer cast shadow on the face, but I don't know that I fully agree with the feedback you gave. I think the issue with that piece in particular, with Symphony's piece, I don't know if Symphony's here right now, so I'm not going to go too deep into it, but I think it's the line economy is like the big issue. Like, I think like 90% of the problems with that piece can be fixed by removing a lot of the unnecessary lines that just sort of break up focal areas and like over clutter the eyes a little bit too much. Like when you're looking at it, like visually it's overly cluttered. That's the big issue. I know they said they want feedback on shading. I don't really see any issue with anything that's shaded. I don't really like see a strong attempt to do any shading, so I don't really know what the feedback would be on that. Values would need to be pushed, I guess. But to me, it really is just like there's a lot of unnecessary lines that break up flow. That would be sort of my advice on that piece in particular. I think I got most of my questions answered last time. I don't have many drawings right now, but I will draw more and ask as I go. Did you not post something in the... Did I give you feedback on it? Oh, I think everybody was offering feedback on that. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, see, I feel like a lot of people focus on, like, giving critique on details rather than sort of, you know, the actual, like a lot of the feedback I notice, or a lot of the mistakes I notice with a lot of people's art, a lot of the time it comes down to gesture, and it comes back to, like, adding too much information or leaving out too little information. Those are like the commonalities I see a lot in art. Unless it's like specific rendering advice or lighting advice, I think a lot of it comes down to those things. For me, when I notice like a lot of people's art, because like those are the things that are really, really, really difficult to get right. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think you're fully wrong, Jadu, with the feedback. Like you can provide feedback on the shading. I just don't know that I necessarily agree that like he's side lit. It looks to me very clearly like top down lighting. In which case, I think the shadow shapes in the hood are fine. I just think there's too many lines. I was gonna ask about the not safe for work piece I posted, but I fumbled that one. Whoops. Can I just randomly share my art for a critique? Yeah, go for it, dog. Hey, Snack, how you doing? Hey, Naldo, how you doing, dog? I'm good. I'm chilling. Snack, you want to bite of my McDonald's? No, it's part of my New Year's resolutions. I gotta lose weight, you know? I'm too fat of a mouse. My tiggle bitties are taking up too much of the scale. It's tough though to tell people that like that sometimes I don't necessarily agree with their feedback though, because it's hard because with art in particular, the struggle with art is that you can't see what you can't see. And it's going to sound insane to anybody that I tell. Like if there's an artist that identifies something in something and I don't agree with it because I'm seeing something different, and let's say my eye is more developed than theirs, it's very difficult to explain to someone conceptually that they can't conceptualize something that I conceptualize. I would need to link my brain to that person and have them feel the emotions and the sort of like visual stuff that I'm feeling based off of the experiences in my life that I've had when it comes to that art. And that's the complexity of art. So, but at the same time, there's an argument that can be made there that maybe I'm misidentifying stuff because I can't conceptualize what other people feel. Because art is also like a very subjective thing. So who's to say that when I'm saying that I don't necessarily agree with somebody's critique, that maybe the majority of people won't look at my critique and say they don't agree with what I'm saying, right? It's like a weird catch-22 where on the one hand, I can't go around telling people that I don't think that they can perceive the same things I perceive without actually accepting that maybe there's a possibility that I can't perceive what they perceive. It's fucking weird. But I think the sort of like the divider there is the experience, right? And I think if you're able to output like high more advanced art or more sort of like experienced work, then there's an argument to be made that maybe the person who has the more experience is able to perceptually see things a little bit better than others. Dude, I know it scares me so bad. Like, what if someone's eyes are just seeing mistakes I don't even know I'm making? But that's what you should seek out, right? That's what people should be looking for with feedback. That's the thing that I think is really difficult to convey when you're giving somebody a critique, is that you're giving them information that they can't see, and they have to trust that what you're saying is accurate. Now, there are some feedbacks that are just like a little bit more obvious than others. Like if one eye is like much smaller than the other, and like some of my feedback is like, hey, your eyes are a different size, that's obvious when you tell someone that. But if I tell someone, hey, your gesture is weak, or hey, you're adding too much visual clutter, how do you convey that to somebody who doesn't have like the conceptual understanding of what is too far and too little, just in terms of intuition? That's a really hard thing to communicate to someone. The more objective stuff, like proportion differences, or, you know, your character's legs are too small versus what a human body, like, you could point to a human body and be like, hey, look how tall this person's legs are versus the character you drew, right? And it becomes obvious where there's a difference sometimes. And even then, sometimes it's hard to see. But it gets really, really messy when you're saying things like, your gesture feels off, the composition feels off. You can try and explain it with theory, but it's not always going to click. To be honest, when I first saw it, I thought it was fine, and I couldn't come up with anything immediately to say that could be improvised, so I did ask them what they wanted to improve on, and that's the angle I approached it with, but I would have just called it done the way it was. See, I see that, and I see there's a lot of stuff that could be improved. Yeah, just like shape integrity, like, just, like, general, like, line, like, excessive lines and all that stuff, but... I don't know. It also comes down to a person's personal tastes, right? So if you're asking somebody for feedback, make sure it's somebody whose art you'd like to emulate. Because the reality is, like, there are people who have different tastes, and that's also going to influence critiques, right? Not everything's objective. Honestly, when you're learning something, your mentality really matters, / how you see things. My mentality is beggars can't be choosers, so I never get hurt. I wear it like armor. Good. That's a good way to improve. Worse, you're living in a wasteland called Brazil. Tragic. There, I'll share some of my most recent art just to see where I can grow. Just share one thing. Just so that I don't have, because like a big issue I have sometimes is if people post like 3 or 4 things, I don't know where to jump into. So post one thing, and it'll be a lot easier to just sort of tackle that. It narrows things down a little bit. And then I think if you post one thing consistently over time, it gets easy for me to start to notice your habits. But if there's too many things posted at once, it gets a little bit difficult to sort of narrow in. And typically, I usually just end up asking them to pick one thing, and then I'll dive into that. But I'm going to take a leak real quick, and then let me just see. We might have ads coming up. If we do, I might run them first and then take a little piss after, or while I'm running the ads. Let's see what we got. Ad manager. Oh no, we have a half hour before ads. Okay, I'm gonna go take a leak and then we'll jump into a little critique real quick. I'll be RB. Okay, we're back. There we go. Time to feel bad about my art. I know it'll be fine. Don't worry. I'll be gentle. Let's see what we got here. Let me take a little look. Okay. Okay. How would I approach this? So this looks like a study of some sort. What's the name of the character you're drawing here? Let me reduce the opacity on this so we can do a little draw over. This is an easy critique to do, okay? The reason this is an easy critique to do, Heathcliff, The reason it's easy is because we have a model here, okay? And it's very easy to identify sort of differences between your drawing and sort of the model itself. I assume your goal is model accuracy, right? If it's not, then we're gonna have to do something a little different. If it's like stylistic, like if you're trying to do something like unique or whatever, it's gonna get a lot more complicated. If your goal is just accuracy, there's some clear changes we could do. The first one is the roundness of the lower half of the face and the position of the eyes and the nose. Now I'm looking at sort of one key thing, okay? And I'm looking at the change of direction on the face here. Whoops. So notice how the face comes in. It hits a curve right around here, and then it changes direction, and it curves again right around here, and then it changes direction again, and it just wraps around the whole way through here. Okay, those two things are this point and this point are going to be sources of information that you're going to use for the rest of your piece. What do I mean by that? When I'm doing this curve here, let's say you have the curve here on the head, right? I'm just going to go based off of where you position your curve. Now there's a couple things I need to identify. Where does this character's eye level start relative to the position of that curve? And it doesn't have, for context, guys, I picked this curve as an example, but it doesn't matter what I pick as an example, so long as I'm anchoring myself to something, okay? And so I chose the curve on the side of the head here as a way to quantify my proportions. And so I chose that, and I'm looking here, if I drag this line out, how much of that eye lines up with that curve? Because that's going to help us sort of maintain the height of the character here, or the proportions of the character. Now I'm looking, and this character's entire eye is above that curve, primarily. I would say about 80% of it is above that curve. Okay, so we got all this here above that curve, and we've only got this here below it. Okay, now let's look at yours. Right, and you can see where I'm going with this. I draw this curve, your entire eye is below that curve. So that's going to be a thing that's going to completely change the way people perceive your character versus the actual model. So this stuff matters when it comes to models. So now what happens is if I take these eyes here and I move them up, let's switch to blue. So I'm going to do this, and we can squash them, but she has massive eyes. So squashing them to that degree just isn't realistic based on the amount of volume we have to move here. What do I mean by volume? If you have an eye that's this shape, if I want to squash the eye, I need to maintain sort of the volume and the relationships, especially in animation, of the eyeball. I can't delete material. So if I'm squashing an eye, I'm squashing it proportionate to the actual size. So the width here is going to be really large because we need to make sure that the total area is maintained as we're squashing the eye. Now, it could be stylistically that when they do this, they do it a little bit differently, and they basically just keep sort of an outer line here, but they separate it with a lid. So I would look at how the show squashes the eyes, and then I would use that information to do my stylistic approach to this. Okay? I'm heading off, y'all. Enjoy the art. All right, do your thing. I'm going to pause and read what Jadu said here. I have a bit of two minds about the critique process. I think the way to get a good feel of where you can improve is to submit the same piece of work to multiple artists you like and see what they have to say, and they often come up with very different things. Like the animation I submitted for you to critique last time, I also submitted to Kasem, and he didn't nearly have as much to say on what to improve because he didn't really view it from the perspective of an animator. Kasem is an animator, though. Like, I'm pretty sure he worked in animation, didn't he? I thought he worked at, like, Titmouse. So that seems strange to me. Unless he was like a designer or something. I don't know what he actually did at the studio. I also think they could create a too many cooks in the kitchen kind of vibe. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Anyways, back to what Pete submitted. So, looking at this, I would look at this, Pete, and I would look at now I'm going to look up. What'd you say? It's Heathcliff? Is that what it is? Marcy from Heathcliff. Marcy from Heathcliff. Okay. So I'm looking at the show now, and it doesn't have to be the same character, But what I'm doing is I'm looking at the show because I want to know what the show designers do when they want to squash an eye. Because it's going to be different for every show. It's going to be different for every show, okay? So this is a style guide, okay? So I found this character in Heathcliff, all the way up here. And I noticed what they don't do is they don't actually squash the eye. So if I would have squashed the eye here like I was telling you to do, it would have been a mistake. What they actually do is maintain the eye volume and just add an eyelid onto it. Okay? So that's what we're going to do to your character here. So we're going to raise the eye, like I said. We're using this as our sort of barometer for positioning. We're going to draw the eye sort of the way they do it. They don't draw the whole outline of the eye here. You gotta catch all of these little things. So in my case, I'm just going to sort of do a little dot here. We're going to throw an eye there. And then, since she's upset, we're going to sort of do one of these. And then maybe something like that. I'll lower it a little bit. I think we could squash it a little bit, but I'm gonna wait. And then again, sort of the other eye here. Looking at the eyes here, my eyes are still too small. Way too small still. Now looking at the sort of... We could cut back to the eyes. I don't really like the way these are going. We'll maybe tweak them in a bit, but... Looking at the side of the head here, I'm seeing much more of a curvature to the edge here than what you have. Yours, to me, is a little too angular. So I'm going to curve this out. I'm going to do it with my red line here. And I think it's going to lower a little bit more. I still think... I think it's okay, actually. Now, I think the eyes, because of the positioning here, I'm looking, because something feels weird about my design. Look how close my eye is compared... I'm going to do this in green so you can see the difference. Look how close my eye is to the side of the head. Look how close her eye is to the side of the head. So much more space. I guess, if I shift this over, it's going to feel a little bit better. This is what we're doing. We're just going in. We're using this as a measurement tool, and we're checking our stuff. We're going back and we're constantly going through and checking things. Okay. This is sort of like how you would do things in a professional setting. Now, I don't really know how they handle like the eye being squashed like this. I really don't know. I feel like I can't find a good reference for this online, but he was specifically a character designer, and although he animated, he doesn't use himself as an animator, so he doesn't really give strong, confident advice about from the town of animation I see, in terms of animation. My attention's being split like 4 ways, so if my gibberish is more gibberish than normal, that's why. That's all good, dog. I don't know how to handle the eyes here. Like I said, I'm missing information. I don't know how the designers of the show would draw the eyes like this. So I gotta make a guess here and just sort of like take a chance. I'm gonna leave it like that for now. Maybe if it were me, I would just push these eyelids up, cartoon-wise. I don't know if that would look good or not. This is sort of where you have to use your experience to sort of make educated guesses, just because I don't have all the information. The mouth. How do they do? They all have very small mouths. The nose. There's no space between the nose and the eyes. The nose seems to overlap the eyes here. So we're going to make sure that we have that in there. I think I'm noticing what's weird. So if I'm looking at the width, it's a lot wider at the bottom of the eye here than it is at the top of the eye here. Whereas mine is pretty even the whole way through, which is why it feels a little weird. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to narrow the top a little bit. And we're going to widen that there. And you're just basically going through, Pete, constantly going through, making these changes, double-checking things, fixing things. This is how you get a model accurate. And then once you've done this, and you've drawn this character 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 times, you'll notice you'll be able to draw the character pretty well. I'm looking at where the hair starts. Look, I'm noticing the hair starts there. So I'm mimicking that. The hair starts there, it stops here, comes back up like this, and then it connects into this corner here. I really don't like the shape language. If it were me, I would say don't design hair like this, because it's very symmetrical. It's the same size, it's not very appealing. It's very flat, but, you know, this is an old show, so... Why does this feel weird to me? Probably the shape of that. Where does this curve? This gets wider as it comes down. But Pete, this is essentially what you're doing when you're designing these characters. Or when you're trying to mimic a style. And this is how you get better, by the way, guys. You identify the things that a good artist that you admire do, and you try to copy them. Right? And then you'll eventually get stronger and better at drawing. I'm gonna give her eyebrows here. Just because I feel like it'll sell the pose a little bit more. I still don't like those eyes. How am I gonna handle this? I'm gonna change some things here. I'm gonna widen them a little bit. I'm gonna shrink them down. Now I'm gonna apply a little bit stylistic uniqueness to them. And they're not gonna be the same as the character's model, but I think it'll just be more appealing if I do it like this. I remember drawing Goku so many times as a kid, I got good at it to the point I could draw him from memory. Not anymore, though. Well, that's sort of like how animators operate. Whenever you start a new show, you're just like, there's a 2-week period called, what do they call it? I can't remember what it's called anymore. But basically, like, for the first 2 weeks, or the first batch of scenes you get, the expectation from the studio is that you're going to be a lot slower because you're learning the model. And then once you get comfortable with the model, then you get, the expectations are a little bit higher for you. So now you've got the mouth there. I think my mouth is going to come a little bit higher up. I'm going to do sort of like what you have here, except I'm going to vary up the shape. Notice how on yours, the two sides here are basically the same height. I'll do it in green so you can see it a little bit better. On yours, the two sides here are almost the same height. I just varied that up a little bit to have a little bit more visual interest in the design. So just less symmetry. And more shape variety. And then I'm just going to do the same thing as what you have here, the lines. Now, you got the arms up here. You see how this line overlaps this line, and this line's a little wobbly? I would rather, in animation, I think it's probably better to just keep that clean. So I'd just do something like that. Just straight up, just a simple C-curve, right? Just because it's animated. Now, what I would avoid doing, and if I were in a studio and I animated this character in this pose, I would immediately get told not to do that by my supervisor. You don't really want your character doing the same sort of arm poses. It's what we call twinning. You don't want any features being the same. And you're also kind of doing it here with the arms. So what we're going to do is we're going to have... I'm going to adjust the position of this arm, actually. We're going to have this arm sort of come up like this. The way you have it. I'm going to lower it just a little bit so it feels a little bit more natural. And then the other arm, I'm going to let just sort of chill. I feel like it's going to feel a little bit more organic. She's sort of got these like lines coming from her hoodie here. Maybe we have one hand in the pocket, whatever. I can't see the rest of her, so I don't really know what her legs look like. I'm going to have to kind of guess here. The answer is not to guess, by the way, normally. It's just to find more, do more research and get more reference. But for the sake of this example, we're just going to guess it. Now, because this arm is elevated, I'm trying to think which leg I want to elevate. Normally, I try and offset limbs. So if one shoulder is up, then the other hip is up. So if this shoulder's up here, like this shoulder height is higher than the other one, typically what I will do in my art is I will also have the other hip have an opposing position, and then you have a pinch and a stretch like this. And that creates more appealing designs. Rather than having a character standing straight like this, very boring. This is a lot more boring, a pose like this versus a pose like that. You know, because then I can lift this leg, then have this leg hanging out, instead of something like this and this. These two poses are very, very different. And it's just you get a lot more visual interest when you vary them up like that. And so that's sort of what I'm going to go for. So I'm gonna elevate this hip. And all I'm doing is I'm making sure that this curve is like on an angle, so it's higher up on this side. Which means it's going to have all of the weight on it. And then this leg here, I'm going to just bring it back maybe, where you have it here. But that's sort of how I would think about it. I don't know what the shoes look like, but I'm just going to trust your design here. Anyways, that's sort of how I would approach doing like a character study of some sort. I would really analyze the model. Oh, I forgot her bow. And just keep going through and double checking what I missed, what I didn't miss, all that good stuff. And then if you want to figure out how to do expressions from a specific show, they have model sheets. So you can go on Google and you can type in character sheet, model sheet, expression sheet, and you should get a variety of options that have been developed by the studio to help the animators design the character. When you work in a studio, and especially if you're doing animation, you will be handed a style guide, which is basically a set of rules that you're not supposed to deviate from when you're designing or working with the character. So sometimes a character, when they smile, they'll get a certain dimple. Some other characters won't. And so the style guide will have all that information so that when you're doing expressions, you know, you keep things on model and on style. And so that way every animator doesn't do something stylistically different. They all kind of stick to the same thing. Anyways. These eyes here feel off to me, so I'm just gonna tweak them a little bit. And that's sort of how I would draw that character, you know? I'd probably switch this foot up, but... So I'll send you this. And I know when we use this as like a guide to sort of direct the proportions, but you can really use anything. I could have started, instead of starting with this curve on the cheek here, I could have started with the bow. And I could have been like, okay, let's see how close things line up with the bow. Well, I'm looking at the edge of the bow here, and I'm looking at sort of these proportions, and it looks like the bow is more or less half the width of the hair, and so I have to make sure, at least as it relates to this point here, right? So these are things that, like, I'm tracking now, and then maybe the inner bow is, like, even more. So basically the bow is half this width. I don't know. There's different ways you can approach it, right? But this is all the stuff I'm looking at. I'm looking at this negative shape in here, where these shapes change direction on the model, all of that stuff. Like, I noticed this here on this pinch, and so I was like, I'm going to do that pinch, and it's going to be simplified. They used basically 2 lines here, 1, 2. So all I need to do is do the same thing, and it should be a little bit more on model, but... I can't believe I found the Reddit post I read forever ago. It was like a 12-year-old post. I was like, don't do this type of face type stuff. They have the King of the Hill ones. They got deleted, so I'd have to find a new post. Oh, I want to find the animation Bible for King of the Hill and The Simpsons. I don't draw very often, but it was still an interesting glimpse. Yeah, that's a popular one. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I've seen that one before. But, yeah, every show has one. Doesn't matter what show you're on. And then when you want to do different expressions and stuff, you want to see how other character expressions are handled, or how that character's expression is handled. And if there's no example of it on the show, well, you kind of have to invent it. And you want to use as much information provided by the show that you can to stay on model. Normally, that's what a character designer would do in an animation studio, okay? So if you have a shot that's really complicated and has a pose that just hasn't been developed before, what a character designer's job is to do is, first of all, it's to design the characters, but it's also to do these things called special poses. Okay, you didn't see, but I'm doing air quotes when I say special poses. But essentially, think of like if I had to draw this character doing like a punch, right? How would I do that? How would that work? Like, what would be the stylistic approach to doing that? And how would I tackle it? And if I'm an animator, it's not really my job to figure that out. It's the character designer's job to give me that information, right? So that's sort of where special poses and character designers come in. So they have to be very capable of doing diverse work. But anyways, I'll leave you that to start. And hopefully that helps give you some sort of direction. Oh, here, let me flip this because your original thing was flipped. Delete. I get it. Part of the problem is just the more experience I get, I also learned a lot from it where I can improve. Yeah, art is this like never-ending evolution of just learning and style changes and experimentation, and you'll probably have 20 different ways of drawing throughout your entire art journey, and that's okay. You should do that. Okay, you should be experimenting. You should be trying new things out. Don't get complacent doing one thing for too long. To be honest, if you could give a critique or tutorial on how to analyze your own work, that would probably be the most helpful information I could receive. Yeah, the thing is, I, I like this idea. I like the idea too. It's just that's really, 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 really difficult because what you're basically saying is, how do I see things I can't see? Right? It's like how do you teach somebody to do that? You could basically learn theory. And you could do things like, let's say in this case, I'm looking at this character, this girl in particular, and I'm looking at the eyebrows, and I notice, okay, the eyebrows, they're not really lining up. There's something weird about my eyebrows here. This eyebrow feels like it belongs on a completely different face than this eyebrow. Now, there's two ways I can fix that. I can either erase some of this eyebrow out. What layer did I do this on? I can erase some of this eyebrow out so they're a little bit more even. Right? And then that'll feel a little bit more natural. But that's sort of how I would say you analyze your own work, right? You sort of look at it, make tweaks. I don't know. It's really, really difficult. Because I wish I knew. Because if I could analyze my own work effectively, then I'd be improving way faster. But a lot of art is sort of drawing something. You make a drawing, right? You draw a little guy or whatever. Okay, you draw a little guy. And now you look at this little guy and you go, huh, how do I improve this little guy? And then what you do is you try a bunch of shit. And then maybe you do, I don't know, maybe you make him look like this. Right? Maybe you tweak it again. Maybe you're like, no, that looks like shit. And then maybe you try, okay, maybe we'll make him skinnier. And maybe we'll give him, like, longer eyes here. Right? And you try all these things, and every time you're doing this, you're gathering information on what works and what doesn't work. And you're trying to retain the things that work while getting rid of the things that don't. It's really, 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 really difficult to do that with intention. It's so hard. I wish I had an answer for you, dude. It really is one of those things where you have to trust... Jadu, that over time, you will get better at visualizing your mistakes. And I'm sure you've had this experience before, where you've drawn something, and then 2, 3, maybe a month later, you look back at it, something that you thought was incredible when you did it. You're like, this is the best drawing I have ever done. Okay? And you look at it and you're like, I'm a fucking god. I'm the greatest artist who's ever lived. Picasso who? Right? You go through that mode. And then 6 months goes by, you look back at it, and you look at it and you go like, man, I cannot believe how many things I did wrong in that piece. And it's because throughout those 6 months, you've trained your eye to get to a different level of observation. To where you can identify a lot of the mistakes. And so now when you're producing art, because you can identify those mistakes in your own work, it's very obvious to you what to avoid. How to avoid it is a completely different answer. That's going to rely on finding the right references, finding people who could do it well and emulating them. Like, art development and art improvement is just this constant cycle of training your eye and then training your hand and then training your eye and then training your hand and just always going back and forth until over time, over the course of years and years and years, you get to a point where you're really, like, you've improved quite a bit. But there's no, like, objective way to really spot your stuff outside of like learning more. Consume more tutorials, consume more content, but do it with intention. Don't just go on YouTube and do like how to draw. and then just watch fucking 10 videos of 10 different guys talking about 10 different things. Don't do that. But if you're drawing something, and let's say in my case I'm drawing something and I'm struggling with the hair, I should stop, go, how to draw hair. Watch that video, immediately go back to drawing the hair, and then continue from there. And then that's how you should use tutorials and things that you find on the internet. Otherwise, you're going to get stuck in a loop of just sort of like grinding out self-improvement content without actually putting it into practice. But is Boba still giving out homework? He's not. He's not. We have thought about bringing back the homework thing. We just didn't get a lot of participation on it. Boobs? Who's Boobs? Booba? Booba's his alternate name. I say setting goals for yourself really helps. I went from lines to curves to anatomy and now rendering in black and white. After I'm done, I'll set my goal to rendering with color. Yeah, you can do that too. That's kind of what I do. I focus on line work, and this year I've sort of started to dip my toe into doing a little bit more rendering, like this girl or whatever, right? But generally speaking, I mostly stick to line art, and then, you know, whenever I'm like in the mood to do more rendering, I'll jump into rendering, and I jump back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and then slowly edge more towards the thing I'm uncomfortable with. Because I don't want to lose my interest in pursuing art and drawing, right? But it's tough, guys. I feel like a lot of these questions come down to what's the secret sauce to improve. I wish I knew. I'm guessing as much as you guys are, right? There are things that objectively will help you get better, but you're not going to see it overnight. You're not even going to see it month to month, really. It's going to take you several months to maybe even a year to really notice any changes in your work. And it sucks to hear that, because a lot of people don't want to wait a year or 6 months or 4 months or whatever, however long it takes to make an incremental improvement on anything. But that's sort of the way it is. And I think, you know, the sooner you accept that and the sooner you get comfortable with that, the sooner you can get to working on drawing, you know, and not worrying about it as much. And just trying to push yourself better than your last work every time. And like Joe says, set goals and narrow in on a specific thing. Whether it be line art, whether it be rendering, whether it be like Sydney's working on forearm anatomy or whatever, right? Focus in on something and narrow the scope, because if you broaden it too much, you're just gonna fucking spin your wheels in a bunch of different directions that you're gonna forget, and you're never gonna get anywhere. And try not to bite off too big of a project. Everybody wants to make their anime or their fucking their ultimate comic book or whatever, but like, you know, those are big goals. And if you've got a bunch of other things in the way before you can actually do those to a degree that you're happy with, then it's gonna make it a lot harder. When I animate now, I keep catching the mistakes that Snag gave critiques last year, and I just fix it myself to an extent. But that's the point, right? But NFT, I bet you if I asked you, like, when I gave you critiques a year ago, there were probably some critiques I gave you that you were like, is this real? Like, is this, I don't see it, right? But now you see it. And I feel like that's sort of like the process. It's really hard to tell somebody to see something they can't see. It's like the most fucking paradoxical thing in art. But that's sort of how improvement works, is you learn to see the things that you can't see. And you only learn that by doing it more and intentionally observing. I think observation is probably one of the most important things in art. Like, without a doubt. Also, Black Knight, thank you for the follow. Welcome in, big dog. Have fun with the work you can already do today instead of locking fun to when you get good 1 year later. Yeah. And that's another thing. Everything I'm saying, you know, if you feel like it's gonna be like fucking like basically having a vacation excursion to Guantanamo Bay to take all the techniques and advice I've been giving into practice and putting them into practice, then don't do that. Do some shit that you'll enjoy. Yes, I was like, it's not that much of a problem. It doesn't need fixing, but whatever. And now when I look at it, you were absolutely right. That's how every single person feels when they start getting feedback Like when I told you NFT, when I joined the studio, my supervisor would give me a bulleted list of revisions, and I was like, I don't see any of the fucking shit he's talking about. What the hell is this motherfucker talking about? I'm wasting my time. And then a year or two later, I look back at it and I'm like, damn, how did I not see this shit? You know? And that's a sign that you're getting better. That really is. That's the feeling of improvement in art. And it's not a satisfying feeling. It is like an aha feeling. It's like, oh, it clicks. I get it now, but there's still so much you don't get. And you don't know that you don't get it. You're gonna not believe it when you're told you don't get it. It's fucking weird, dude. I don't know how to explain it. It's like literally so it's not intuitive at all. Really getting into like art philosophy, but genuinely, I think it all comes down to observation. Like really, like there are things you can see and there are things you can't see. And if you can't see them, you can't physically improve on your ability to draw them. I don't know, dude. I feel like I sound like a fucking schizo shaman guru when I'm talking like this, but it is crazy how much of it is that. But the one thing that you'll notice, NFT, over time, is the more you experience this, the more you'll realize that, like, you need to start trusting people that know more than you. Because they see things that you don't, right? Like, if I'm ever doing an animation, I'm immediately sending that animation to Toothpaste, and I'm being like, what's wrong? And he's gonna tell me some shit, and I'm gonna be like, I don't agree, but he's better than me, so I'm just gonna trust his instinct on this. You know? And maybe he's wrong, but, you know, at least I tried something new. Who knows? Why does your avatar look a lot like Hammond Ball with the Hammond Ball from Overwatch? I don't know. He's a distant cousin. We're not related though. I'm a mouse. I taste the rainbow. Amen, brother. Also, the amount of patience you need. Oh my god, it's pure torture. If I didn't enjoy drawing, I wouldn't even touch a pencil. Yeah. Yeah, same. It's like I got my Sharingan. Yeah, you got your one Tomo, you know? You got your one Tomoe, and then you still got a few more to get. And you don't have the Mangekyo, or like the Eternal Mangekyo, or the Rinnegan yet. But you're getting your little dots or whatever. But that is what it feels like, genuinely. One thing that bugs me a lot, though, is when you look for advice on what to learn, everyone points back to fundamentals. So it's like if you come through it 50 times, when someone says, go back to the fundamentals again, you don't really feel how much benefit you could get from doing the fundamentals again. I feel like that's a cop-out. I don't like when people say, go back to the fund. Like, what the fuck does that mean? There are so many fundamentals in art, dude. Like, if somebody sends me a piece, like, if you send me this drawing, and I say, like, hey, you want to know how to fix it? Go work on your fundamentals. What the fuck are you talking about, dude? What are you talking about? What fundamentals? The fundamentals of what? How to draw an eye? The fundamentals of how to draw a nose? The fundamentals of jaw anatomy? The fundamentals of bone anatomy? The fundamentals of skin, youth, age, wrinkles, hair placement? Like, shape language? What the fuck are we talking about? It's such a non-answer to say go work on your fundamentals. It sounds nice to say, and it's a thing that a lot of people say, but I just feel like it's such a lazy feedback, like, to give. I don't know. Like, if I say, like, fundamentals, I would hope that I'm following it up with what the fundamental you should work on is. If I say you should go work on your fundamentals of, like, perspective, then maybe I'll tell you to draw some boxes, right? That's a strong fundamental exercise that you should work on, right? You should be able to draw boxes from any position. If I tell you to rotate this box to the left, or have this center line, or this line here, be in the middle, you should be able to do that, right? And then if I tell you to rotate it upwards, you should be able to do that. You know? Like, that's a fundamental skill you should work on. But, you know, just saying, like, go work on your like, what? The fundamentals of life itself. Speaking of good artists, dude, welcome in, Octagear. How you doing? Long time no see. We're talking mad shit about improvement and how improvement in art is like a really, really, really frustrating thing because it's not really a thing that you can objectively see in the moment. Like, I can't draw one line next to another line, and I mean, in certain cases, I can see that there's one line that's better than the other. But when you're improving your art holistically, it takes you months to look back at your old art and be like, oh, I can see things completely different now than I can before. Because when I was drawing that piece, I didn't see all of the mistakes. But now that I've improved, I can see it all now. And it's fucking weird. I don't know how to explain that to people, right? And I don't know how to explain, like, sometimes when I feel like I give feedback to people, they don't see what I see because they either don't have the experience, or maybe I just don't see what, you know, they're aiming for, you know? So it's like, so weird. I don't know. Art improvement is such a fucking strange thing. You just gotta be hungry, apparently. That's it, guys. You just gotta be hungry. I don't know what kind of hair to give this chick. I'm an artist who's 1 year into the art journey, started January 2025. I still don't know if I should be if I should start practicing perspective. Okay, this is, if you don't know where you should work on, what I think you should do is whenever you're drawing something, if you're drawing something and you catch yourself drawing it and you say, I don't really know how to draw this, I'm kind of guessing. And if you catch yourself guessing, you should stop immediately and go look it up. And watch a tutorial, look at reference, look at how other artists draw it, whatever, right? And then I think you should just chase that forever. And you can narrow in on specific domains if you want to explore those domains. But I think, you know, if you do things that way, you're always going to be chasing an interest you have. Whereas if I say, like, I should learn to draw buildings. Well, I mean, guys, how many times have I drawn buildings in the last 2 years of streaming? Almost never. So it's like me going to study the fundamentals of building design is not going to really help my art much, because it's just not really something that interests me that much. Now, is there value in me being able to draw buildings? 100%. Is it something that I'm passionate about? Not really, you know? So it really just sort of, I feel like you should just sort of chase the blanks that you have when it comes to doing the things that you're actively doing. Like, if you're drawing something and if you're drawing a hand and you're like, man, I don't know where to position this hand, or I want to draw a hand resting on a hip, but I don't know what that looks like, and I've been drawing this for 30 minutes, guessing and scribbling and trying different shit out till it feels right, that's a sign to you that you should go look it up and you should do a little research. And that's sort of how I would recommend sort of chasing improvement, rather than being like, I should go learn the fundamentals of animation even though I never planned to animate ever in my life, you know, something like that. So that would be my advice. Chase your interests rather than chasing, you know, what you think you should be chasing or what people tell you should be chasing, because that's gonna come from their perspective. Passion's a good start, but I'm keeping a notebook in 2026 for whenever I notice something I need to improve. Taking a mental note is not enough. I'll forget. That's exactly what I'm talking about, right? So it's just catching yourself in the moment, realizing what you do and don't know. And that's a powerful thing, because you're going to improve at the things that you exactly want to improve at, you know? And then if you want to expand beyond that, great. Do it. But just keep chasing your interests. Find artists you like, emulate their work, steal from them elements of their work, you know, and apply it to yours, interpret it a little differently, and just keep doing that forever, and you'll get good. Clearly, artists just need that Sigma grind set. Amen, brother. Us high-value males out here, just fucking, just grind setting away, dude. I sleep 3 hours a night, dude. That's how I get 3 days in 24 hours. What kind of negative can I also see with critiques is when you ask for a critique and they ask you what thing you should get a critique on, but the whole point is you don't know what's wrong. If I'm ever asking somebody what they want me to critique on, it's probably because I don't know what they're interested in improving on in that moment. Like if somebody submits something to me and there's a bunch of things that I think I could focus on, because it's happened to me where somebody posts something and I spend like 20 minutes giving them feedback on their eye positioning or the way they did their nose or whatever, and I tell them how I would approach it, and then they're like, no, actually, I just wanted to know how to draw hair. It's like, okay, well, if I'm asking, it's usually because somebody might have an interest in that particular, like, instance, and I just don't want to waste time focusing on something that's not super interesting to them. So I want to provide as much value as I can, right? So if I'm asking, that's why I'm clarifying, but... Good advice. I'd say, though, where I'm aiming for is kind of a tier above that. I don't really care about designing a room or building well, but I want to be able to do that so I can compose an entire image more holistically. That's why I'm trying to take time to learn composition. But I feel like first I need to take a step back and refresh my understanding of perspective and anatomy, and that's just the beginning. Yeah, but the thing is, like, big compositional, like, if you're doing, like key illustrations for like a show production pipeline or something that involves props, it involves like set design, it involves composition, it involves character design. That's like basically trying to learn a plane when you've never even flown in one, right? Like, you're not gonna get into the cockpit of a plane and just go into the sky. Like, that's not gonna happen. You're gonna do simulations. You're gonna try things out in safe environments. You're gonna try a bunch of different shit out before you combine it together into like one big thing, right? Like doing a big compositional piece or doing an anime or a manga or whatever. Like, that takes a lot of different domain knowledge, and you can't learn that all at once. You have to sort of specialize a little bit at a time. And you can bounce around between the two. I'm not saying you have to basically just be a guy who goes into the hyperbolic time chamber for fucking like an entire year and only draws feet. You know? You could do a little bit of everything, but you want to give it at least a little bit of time for you to actually absorb some stuff from one particular domain over another, right? Reference is key. Learn basic composition, perspective and light, color composition. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's good to learn that I have to start with a position and use that anchor to anchor my drawing. Never knew that. Yeah, that's mostly like when I'm like, in your case, Pete, you want to learn how to draw something on model. And so that's why I was saying, like, you really want to use the information of the pre-existing models of that design. So you want to be able to make sure that your eyes are at the right level relative to like the cheekbone and the hairs in the same shape and all that good stuff, right? Knifey man, I did an OC instead of a study. Can I get feedback? Yeah, all right. Let's take a little looky. Let's take a little looky poo. What do we got here? I saw your OC, by the way. He looks fantastic. I don't actually think I have a whole lot of feedback because I think it looks really nice. And not to glaze myself, but I see you've applied a little bit of my pattern stuff. I see the pattern stuff that I do in my designs. And I dig it quite a bit. And for those who don't know what I'm talking about, where's my freaking girl here? Let me turn that off, and then no, turn that on. There's a line layer somewhere in here. What Knifey did is he stole from me. You're a filthy little thief, Knifey. I do these like weird like pattern shapes in like hair quite often. Unfortunately, this is just like an overlay layer for like this character or whatever. But I noticed you did that, so respect. You're stealing from the right guy. I'm so humble, by the way. But yeah, no, Knifey. Okay, so there's not a whole lot I would say about this. I think it's a solid design. I think where I could see you needing to improve is let me think. I think your shape design, to me, could have a little bit more intention. And I don't think your shape design's bad, but I'm looking at like this eye here, and I'm wondering if maybe we could show the eye a little bit more as an eyeball inside of the socket to add a little bit more information. I'm just trying to find what layer I did this on. And what I mean by that is, like, let's say we're drawing this eye. I'm going to reduce the opacity on your drawing so I can do a little overpaint here. But like, let's say I want to sort of show that the eyeball has roundness to it. And this is a stylistic thing I do a lot. So take it with a grain of salt, okay? Because this is not going to be something that you have to do, but it is a thing that I do quite a bit, where I will define sort of the eyeball in the socket a little bit. I'm trying to think if I did it on these characters, kind of. It's very messy, but you can kind of see there's like a lot of overlapping lines and stuff. But I like to add a little bit more information inside of my drawings, because I feel like it just creates a more realistic feel. And it really depends on what you're going for. To me, this implies that, you know, you're going a little bit more realistic with this character. So that's not a huge change. I think your line weight is a little not confident. So I think I'm looking here, and there's like varying line weights here, where we go thick to thin, and then we get some thicknesses in here. I think I think if you had like it's tough to say. It really is tough to say. It's a lot of like line integrity stuff is what I would say. Like, I think you could do cleaner lines, essentially. But in general, dude, I think this is, like, one of the nicest things I've seen you do. This is a really strong improvement on previous stuff you've done. One thing I've noticed here is this eye, the pupil here is, like, completely different size than that one. So, you can either make this one smaller, or you can make this one bigger, so they sort of line up a little bit more. Just a little proportion stuff like that. I'm scared of circles. Do you mean to curve it more? I want to be careful when I tell you what to do. Like, I'm looking at sort of this point on the cheekbone here, and my instinct is telling me that your cheekbone tends to have a more rounded, organic feel to it, but you can also stylize it the way that you did it. So I don't want to tell you to do it one way or another. What I would say is if you want to try to sort of have like a little bit more of a curved shape to your outlines, maybe it'll help a little bit more, and it'll be a little bit less visually abrasive. Because when you look at certain elements of the face, your eye is sort of scanning subconsciously, whether you notice it or not. Your eye is looking at a piece and it's taking in a bunch of information. And there's some areas that your eye sticks on just based on how sharp it is, how it changes direction, where it leads to, and all that stuff. And these are things that you can sort of intentionally manipulate to get a certain focal area or feel to your character. And it's not really wrong to have any angularity in cheekbones, but I'm wondering if it's the wrong choice for this character's design. Because I'm wondering if it pulls away too much. I don't know. I also feel like the thinness here on the brow. Typically, brows will get thicker to thinner, so they'll usually have like a thicker feel in the middle, and then thinner as they go towards the outside. Now, that's not law, okay? You could certainly do the opposite, you know? There's nothing wrong with doing the opposite. It's just, it comes down to choice, right? The issue I have here is it feels too even the whole way through. So I feel like just shape design wise, I would like to see you vary it up a little bit by either going thin to thick or thick to thin, you know? Picking one. Now that might not be the move. It might not be the move. It might be better to actually go thin to thick. There's no right or wrong answer here. But just get some more shape variety in there, is what I would say. And also, notice your flows on your line. So you see how this line is sort of like a straight line almost, and then it curves a little bit? I would rather see a more sort of like organic curvature here. Because when you're drawing an eye, typically when I think of like the eye, I'm thinking of like the rhythms of the eye and the eyebrow. Like if I draw an eye that looks sort of like this, right? Like let's say this, I don't even know, this would be like an eye like this. If I do a brow that is like curved like this, it might feel okay, but is it going to feel as good as an eyebrow that's going to sort of follow the curvature of the actual eye? You can imagine like there's like a shockwave getting sent through this. I'm going to do this in another color. You can imagine almost like an electromagnetic wave getting sent out from one shape to another, and how that flows into the next shape is going to really change the way that the viewer feels about your art. Gonna head to bed now. Enjoy the rest of the stream, guys. Good night. All right, peace out, Joe. I appreciate you popping in. What do we got? I'm missing a lot of messages here. Let me catch up with chat a little bit. I know it's too much to ask for, but I don't kid you, stream lagged for me the second you started giving the advice. Oh no. What was your question originally? You said, I'm an artist who's 1 year into the art journey. I started January 2025. I still don't know if I should start practicing perspective. Okay, to summarize the advice I gave you earlier, Black Knight, assuming you're still here, I basically just said, whenever you feel like you have an issue that you want to improve on, or whenever you run into an issue with your own personal art, that should be a sign to you to go explore that topic more. If you find that you're guessing something or a feature of a character or whatever you're drawing, that's your sign to stop and go learn about it more in detail, either through reading an anatomy book, watching a YouTube tutorial, whatever, dude. Looking at art that hasn't done the way that you want it done, whatever. Anyways, I think it would be cool if you use circular patterning instead, which would give him a trippy vibe, but that's just my opinion. Oh, you mean in like the facial hair and stuff? Yeah, you can do that. I don't personally ever do that. I don't really know how I would tackle it, but it's not a bad idea. Circles are a lot more annoying to draw than straight lines, though, so keep that in mind, too. Me and Zale are stealing from you so much you have no idea. Oh, I have an idea. I pop in every now and then. I'm lurking. I'm a little creepy lurker. I'm scared of circles. Do you mean to curve it even more? I mean, I'm learning good. It's on purpose to give him a crazier look. He's kind of a mad scientist. I see. I'm also looking at the perspective on the mustache, and it feels a little off to me. And I'll explain what I mean. If you look at the thickness here, like, this is the center of the mustache, okay? Look at this curve here, and then look at this curve here. And notice how the curve that's farther away from us actually has a wider width, right, than the curve that's closer to us. That just wouldn't happen in a three-quarter pose. If you're turning away from something, typically the thing that's farther away is going to be a lot more compressed in a three-quarter pose. So you're going to see a lot less of it. Unless it's something that protrudes out in like a different plane. But because the sort of mustache is on this horizontal plane, it's going to shrink as it turns away from us. Whereas if it were something like a nose, the nose actually does get wider as you turn away because it sticks out. It's on a different plane. So it's on this like Z axis. So the nose sticks out, and so it'll get more. It'll become larger or wider as the head turns. Whereas the mustache is on this sort of X axis, and because of that, it's going to shrink. And that's just sort of rotating this way, right? If we were rotating upwards, then we're factoring in a lot more y-axis stuff and things like that. It gets a little messy, but think of math, right? No, you know what? Ignore what I'm saying. Don't think of math. You're going to confuse yourself. But basically, this mustache, what I'm trying to say is it should just be a little bit more narrow. So the curvature on the mustache shouldn't be as wide as it is. And the way you can fix that is by just moving this curve over. Or just moving the width of that mustache over there. And then making this one a little bit more compressed. Maybe not like that, but... Now, you want it to curve up just fine. But I'm wondering now if the perspective here is wrong. Now, we've established that the sort of base perspective on the bottom of the mustache is kind of like this. So you can imagine there's a vanishing point off in this direction somewhere. So we kind of have to make sure that this top of the mustache, unless he cuts his mustache unevenly, top of this mustache is also going to more or less line up with that vanishing point. And so I think that inner mustache piece is kind of tall. Same thing with the curvature here. I think the curve would actually be a little bit higher here. And be a little bit more like this. He's supposed to be smirking, so the closer side should be higher. Ah, I see. That helps. The smirk doesn't really read very well. It feels uneven. I would angle it a little bit more if he's smirking. If he's smirking. You could add like a wrinkle here to give more information, just to show that he's smirking. You don't have to, but just something to think about. And then the mouth would be like in a different position here. Unless you want to do like an open mouth, but you'd have to lift this corner just a bit more. Again, I feel like I would round out this bottom lip here, personally. And add more volume to his beard. If his beard is really sticking out here, show that it's a beard. You know? Hair has thickness to it. It's not going to be flush to his head like the way you have it here. Now, you could do like the fucking Giga Chad beard or whatever you got going on here. But just have it stick out more. Don't have it flush to the chin. Because that implies like a very different degree of material that we got going on here. Beards are not really my thing. I don't do a lot of beards, so I'm not gonna focus on your beard too much, just because I feel I'm not gonna be able to maximize the feedback I can give you. His hairline here, to me, is on an upward slope that it wouldn't be on. I think it would curve here and then curve like this, right? But the way you have it is like it's curving up on an angle, like he has a lopsided hairline. You could do that, by the way. It's totally natural to have lopsided features in your character. But in this one, I would add a little bit of a curvature to it, because it's going to feel more three-dimensional that way. Your shape variety on sort of the hair here, I think, could be a little bit more interesting. I'm just trying to think of like how to vary this up so there's a little bit more visual interest. Because right now it just kind of feels like, you see how all these curves are kind of going different directions? This curve has sort of like this shape to it. This curve's going back this way. Then this curve kind of turns in like this. You're basically implying that the head has different like contours. And I feel like these should all sort of flow with each other. And so I'd rather see something, you know, that sort of feels like it has like flow to it. And even that's a little too even. I would break up these shapes with like other smaller shapes and whatever. But just have a defined, consistent contour on this character. Like if you were to draw like a wire mesh over top of it, have it all make sense. Small, medium, large, yeah, you can do that. I feel like you've got a good variety of that, but I'm just saying, like, in terms of the actual form, you know? You don't have to actually really do it the way I did it, but again, this sort of angularity that you have here, like on this line, it just sort of breaks up the flow of the hair. Hair is like, it's going to follow gravity. So I think this hair would actually sort of have more of a smooth transition into wrapping the head here. But it's all really, like, really small things, dude. Knifey Man, I think you did a fantastic job on this guy. There's not a whole lot for me to add here. Maybe, like, just throw a little bit more eyeballness into that eyelid. You can have that eyelid popping out there, but I think, you know... Fuck. These eyebrows are just, these were examples. You don't need to have this. Cacti Con, thank you for the follow. Welcome in, big dog. I don't know that you need all these lines here. Like, these lines, to me, they're excessive. They're not necessary. I would, honestly, I'd say just get rid of them. Like, this wrinkle here doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. It's not following any sort of muscle form. If you want to show that his brow is, like, compressing there, what you have here going like this is probably not the way to do it. I would probably do something like this, you know? And then if you want to add, like, more wrinkles, again, making sure all these lines are flowing. I think that's too much, honestly, but... I don't hate it. I just don't like the shape of your line there. I think that's what I would change. This cheekbone here feels weird to me. It's a little too, again, too many angular forms here. You could do a cheekbone line for sure. I would thin it out a little bit just because, look, this thickness on this line is the same thickness as your contour lines for the edge of the face. The lines on the inner face should probably be a little bit lighter than the other ones. So I would just imply, you know, you can do that with, like, hatching, whatever. I'm going to make this smaller. I'm just going to sort of imply that he has a cheekbone here. It's just going to be a little light. How's that look? Eh. Think of how, like, the crow's feet wrinkle up. Over detailing the face is my biggest struggle, I swear to God. Yeah, you and me both, dude. Finding the right balance on a face is really difficult. Again, this sort of curve here on the top lid, it's a little too angular. I would round it out just a little bit. Remember, this wrinkle here exists because of the eyeball underneath. The eyeball doesn't have this, like, triangular shape to it, right? That would be a really fucking weird eyeball. It would be hard to see things like that. It's gonna have, like, some thickness to it for sure, and you can have a unique form to your wrinkle, but it's still going to wrap over top of a sphere. So you want to show that. Anyways. There's not a lot of stuff I would say here, dude. I think your ear shape is a little weird. Ears are kind of weird in general. I also think your ears sticking out a little bit too much, but... Normally when I draw ears, this is sort of the trick I use. I usually just draw like a Y. So first of all, I'll draw like the ear shape, which is kind of like this diamond. It's almost like a kite. When you think about it, it's like half a kite. If you do like a kite, like a kite to fly or whatever, it's almost like half a kite, except you basically just curve this part. And then you come down like this, right? So that's sort of how I think of an ear. Longer on the bottom half. Right? And shorter on the top half. You don't have to do it this way, just kind of how I think about it. And then what I do is I just do like an inner line here. And then I do like a little Y. So something like this. And then you can continue this down and do a little C down here. That's more or less how I'll draw an ear, typically. I think my Y here is a little yucky. Yucky poo-poo. Maybe I'll do it a little different. Something like that, you know. Maybe throw a little whatever in here if you want. Ears are not that, like, you don't have to be, like, too accurate with it. You can be a little bit stylistically unique. That's just sort of how I think about it, though. I wanted to start working on storyboards by breaking down professional ones and trying to apply some of those composition and design choices. Do you think that's worth my time, or would it be better for me to strengthen areas I know I'm weak in? Depends what you want to do. There's nothing wrong with exploring a domain that you're interested in. You know? If you're doing it to get away from focusing on things you know you should focus on, weigh the pros and cons. What are the odds that you're going to start a storyboard and then get frustrated because you can't draw a character associated to that storyboard? If that's the case, maybe you should focus on the storyboard or the character first. It's basically chicken or the egg, dude. Which one's the thing that you want to be the focus? Anyways, Knifey Man, I'm not going to go too crazy into detail on this. I think for this here, you know, for the neck, the collar piece, he has a very, very thick neck. I don't really know what's going on with the neck here. The neck would be insanely thick if that line's there. I would say the neckline, even if it's like a thick guy, maybe a little bit more like that. Yeah, I really tend to do thick necks by mistake. Honestly, you could do a thick neck. It makes a really masculine looking dude. I just think like the way it's positioned there just looks a little too weird. Also, have some overlaps in here just to show the anatomy a bit more. Yeah, I don't know if I like that. I would keep the overlaps I have, though. Knifey Man, I'm going to leave you with that. I would say get rid of these lines. Get rid of this line here. Probably don't need this one. I don't know that you really need these. There's just a lot of stuff. I think you should go through, do a pass, and really determine what you think you should keep and what you think you don't need to keep. God, you do parallels like it's nothing. Oh, parallel lines. It's just moving your hand in a certain direction or whatever. I do it a lot, you know? Okay, yeah, I got nervous there. No worries, dude. But yeah, I would just say, you know, go through, like, you probably don't need these lines. I don't think this is necessary. A lot of this stuff. Clean some of these areas up, because, like, these lines here, there's no line confidence there. I'm not really sure what's going on. You got kind of his mustache and his beard continues to here. It's kind of weird. Fix this down here, like this region. Get a little bit more shape variety and close the hair off. You could do that however you want, really, but this line here, not really necessary. The collar here is going to actually be a little bit rounder. I know it looks like I just gave him a bunch of acne, but anyways. I'm going to leave you with this because that's a lot to go over, but that should send you on your way and give you a little bit to work on. And just try to work on your line confidence. Trying to get the line right the first pass, or the first couple passes, you know? Make sure every line is sort of like, you know, a line you're happy with before moving on. But I think you did a really, really good job, dude. Snack's pogging out. Snack will know eventually. What am I knowing eventually? Even double line it instead of a thick line makes sense. Just draw. Nice OC. Pogging out. Thank you. Snack's pogging out. Snack will know eventually. I don't know what you're talking about, Pete. The kite thing sure is weird, but if it works, I mean, you don't have to do ears like that. Some people do ears like there's a bunch of different ways. That's just sort of how I do it, though. Like, if you look at all my ears, they kind of just look sort of like that, you know? It's just like a big kite. Like, literally all of them. That's just sort of how I think about doing ears. Doesn't mean that that's how you have to do it, okay? But I'm just giving you, like, something to work, to give you, like, a foundation. If you're doing, like, a character, like, for a cartoon, maybe you'll do, like, an ear like this, you know? And then that'll be your ear. And then you'll have, like, eyeball 1 and eyeball 2, I don't know, whatever. Just depends. In order: character design, over storyboard, over animation, over coloring, over compositing, over full portfolio. I'm just around the end of the character designing, but I also recognize I could be stronger in character design. Yeah, I think it's better to just sort of focus in on one and really improve on the one. For now, anyways, because you want to get your foot in the door, and I think getting basic anatomy and drawing experience will help. And then what I would say is you build like a junior animation portfolio. So you do a couple, like a walk cycle, maybe like a run cycle, some acting, whatever, all that stuff to sort of get your foot in the door in the industry. He doesn't know. Is it just me, your character? Oh, my character's frozen. Oh shit. Yeah, he crashed. Oopsies. Okay, let me bring him back up. Okay, guys, I'm gonna get some water. I'll be right back. We're gonna keep going, though. I reek. Time to shower. Damn, you stinky dog. You getting fucking critiques while you're out there stinking and shit. This guy's got his priorities right. Drawing, personal hygiene, and then, you know, probably food or whatever after. But thank you very much for the feedback. I'll run off now. Do your thing, big dog. I'll be around. Probably another hour or so. Okay, let's get rid of Pimple Boy here. Then go back to drawing this girl. I don't really know what kind of hair to give this girl. I don't really like the direction that's going. Let's see what else we could do. Damn, I have a cut on my pinky finger, and whenever I draw, it like kind of hurts me. I don't even know how I cut myself. It's definitely from drinking. Oh shit, Chuck Chan. You raiding little old me? Welcome in, Chuck. How you doing, big dog? How was stream? For those who don't know, Chuck Chan's an animator here on Twitch. I almost said on YouTube. Over on Twitch, and a fantastic animator at that. There's very few animators on YouTube or on Twitch. God damn it. But, so I recommend if you guys like animation, which I know a lot of you guys do, go follow Chuck Chan, because he's legit. How's it going? Happy New Year? Oh, it's going good, dude. It's going good. What are you up to? You want to share anything? Right now I'm drawing hair on this chick. I really don't know what direction to go with it, but... Sure, I'll share something I did yesterday. Took a break, played Crash 4. Alright, big dog. Link it up. Crash 4. That's not like the same thing as like Crash Bandicoot, is it? It's like a completely, it's a different thing. Or am I tripping? It feels a lot like the old Crash games. It is Crash Bandicoot. Okay, okay, gotcha. I wasn't sure. Okay, we got a link. Oh, shit. Here. This is what Chuck Chan's been working on, or what they were working on yesterday. Check this out, dude. Always so clean, dude. I really, really, really like your style. It's very, like, it's very appealing. I could honestly see, like, a TV show made out of it. It's, I don't know. It's just simple, but it's like the shape languages, the shapes just work really well. Like, you've got, like, a good mix of large, medium, and small, round, squares. Like, I don't know. It's just really well thought out. It's just really appealing. And the color palette's just kind of cozy, too, a little bit. Thanks, dude. No worries, big dog. Also, Chuck, I know sometimes when you're done raiding or whatever, you gotta take off. So if you feel the need to go eat or do your thing, don't feel pressured to hang around here. I do appreciate the raid, though. And for those who want to follow you, where can they follow you? We got any links we want to share? They can follow you for sure on Twitch. But if they want to follow you on Instagram or Twitter or whatever, Blue Sky, feel free to drop any links. No restrictions. But yeah, I really, really, really like the way that you render this. Like, the thing is, it's like, it feels so simple, but there's a lot going on here, right? Like, you've got the gradient on the shadow here. You've got these little marks to show, like, the aged, like texture of the material. Presumably wood, or, like, some sort of, like, painted chest. Yeah, I don't know. It's just, it's really, really, really well thought out. It's not, like, it looks simple, but it's not. You know what I mean? For anyone interested, go follow Chuck Chan. I assume I'm following you. I don't know. I'm not very active on Blue Sky, so yeah, I'm following you. But yeah, Chuck, I appreciate you raiding. As always, I love your stuff. Feel free to take off if you gotta take off, and I'll see you when I see you. I just try to make it not look horrible. I mean, you do a pretty good job, dude. Like, yeah, it's like, if the thing is, like, it feels simple, and like even like this little shadow line here, right? It's hard to see, but even just adding like this little shadow line here, it adds like depth. Even though it's like, you know, it's just like a line, you know, but it adds like depth. And I like the texture on that shadow there. I don't know, dude. I think it's, don't undersell it, you know? You're not just trying to make it look horrible. There's a lot of thought that goes into this, and it doesn't look horrible. It looks great. It's hard to get a simple look, though. Like, what I say is, I tend to overdo things. Like, my style is very, like not full-on realism, but not full-on, like, anime either. I kind of exist in between the two. And I struggle, personally, a lot to get things to look good with simplicity. I feel like it's a very underrated skill, and I don't know, I dig it, so. Thanks for the kind words, dude. Have a good stream, everybody. You too, big dog. Thanks for the raid. I'll catch you next time. I'm gonna move your thing over just so that there we go. We'll put you here. Sorimosar. Hi. Hey, what up, dog? How you doing over there on YouTube? You comfy? I still don't know what kind of hair to give this chick. Oh, shit. It's me, Symphony. Oh shit, dude, how you doing, dog? I saw your thing earlier. You want some feedback on it? We were doing some critiques today, so I don't know if you're still interested in getting critique, but I can go over your work if you want. Sinner, how you doing, big dog? Shit, everybody's popping off on YouTube. Snack, do you know who James Baxter is and why every animator and their daddy fucking loves him? Yeah, he's cracked. That's why. He's a really good animator. Interested indeed? Alright, let me pull it up. I'm so glad you saw it, by the way. Well, we were going over some critiques earlier. And by the way, dude, if ever you post something in critiques, just tell me. Sometimes I just forget. But, you know, I typically won't go over them unless the viewer is in chat and they bring it up to me. Oh, damn, this is a huge image. Okay, we're going to shrink it down. My biggest complaint with this, and I think you mentioned when you drew this that you wanted help on the shading. I honestly don't think there's that much wrong with it. I think you got like a top-down lighting thing going on. I like the shapes that you have in the shadows here. My issue is that I think there's an excessive amount of lines. You want to join the Discord? All right, big dog. I'll get you the Discord link. Don't worry, Daddy's got you. One sec. Here. But yeah, the big issue I have, dude, is there's just a lot of lines. Like, these wrinkles here, it's just a lot. I would rather see a lot more areas for the eyes to rest. So there's a concept in art called contrast, okay? And this applies to a whole bunch of domains. It could be contrast with values. It could be contrast with lines. It could be contrast with a whole bunch of stuff, okay? And the thing that I want to point out is that it feels like there's an excess of detail to where it feels visually cluttered. There's no area that my eye can really rest on and relax. Everywhere I look, there's some sort of little line or detail. And I think going into the next piece, it's very difficult for me to tell you where to get rid of it. But I would say going into the next piece, it might be worth it for you to sort of try and focus on where you can add lines and where you should remove lines. And the way you determine that is based on where you want the eye to look. If you want the eye to look at the focal area here, it's going to feel a lot easier for the eye to gravitate towards that focal area if there's less stuff pulling the eye away. So the more detail and little lines you add everywhere else, the more that gets rid of the eye's instinct or willingness to look at the actual area that you want people to look at. So that's what I'm talking about. And you'll see as I'm coloring in these spots, or as I'm filling in these excessive areas, like, look how much easier it is to sort of tell where it is I'm looking. And I like your shape designs in here, so I'm going to keep some of it, but I'm just going to sort of clean up a lot of it. And you'll notice as I do this, it becomes a lot easier to sort of identify where I'm looking, right? That versus that. And that's just that area. I think you could remove and simplify things a lot everywhere else also. So that's sort of what I'm seeing. It's just a little bit more intentionality with the detail, because I feel like when you pull a lot of that stuff out, it's a lot easier to just sort of focus in on the face, which is clearly the focal area, right? Like that versus that. If I'm looking at these two pieces here, if I look at this, it's not that I don't notice the face, it's that it's very distracting. But if I do this, it's a lot more obvious what I should be looking at. And that applies with, like, detailing on these, like, these pouches on his chest and stuff. If I clean a lot of this stuff up, it's going to feel a lot more legible. And the details are going to sort of, like, the design elements you add, like the sort of pockets, or I don't really know what this is. But getting a little bit more deliberate with where you put your lines is going to help sort of declutter the piece a little bit, which is sort of what I would like you to do. Now, you asked about shading, and you mentioned that you wanted help with shading. So I just kind of did a little paint over just to declutter it a little bit. Now, for the shading, what I would say is you can have these dark shadows like you have in here, and if you want to add more, Jadu mentioned that you can have a cast shadow over the face as well, and you can. You totally can. I don't know that it's fully necessary, but you can sort of shade in these areas too. I would sort of just do the outlines. Now I'm going to get rid of these little lines here. It's not because I want you to get rid of them. It's just because I'm working digitally and it's a flat image, so I can't... painting between them is just very tedious. And then you can blend in these sort of really dark shadows in here. If you want to do something like that, and then, you know... Generally speaking, though, I probably wouldn't do a whole lot to to change any of the shadows. I think it works fine, even without the shadows. But that's sort of how you would do it. You would just sort of do like a shadow shape over top. And then you would sort of carve out your light shapes. You kind of get that though, but the most important thing to me though is just sort of removing the unnecessary detailing. That's really what I think is holding back your piece. So I don't know that adding a shadow is really going to change much. I don't really think it's worth it, but a rodent, ew. Greetings, Glad. What up, Glad? How you doing? Yep, less detail made it more comfy to look at. That's really the biggest change, I would say, dude. And I think that sort of kind of applies in this region as well. I didn't remove much of the lines there, but I think you could probably do the same there, too. And get a much better feel for it. The middle wrinkles here are kind of fine, just because, like, he is, like, frowning. But just having these, like, rest areas just sort of helps. Oh, no, that is a mask. I should remember that. That is a mask. But... You know, that versus that. I feel like it's obvious, right? Unless I'm tripping. Insanely bored today. How's the art going? Not too bad. We've just been doing feedback. That's honestly my only piece of feedback on this, dude. I think it's really nice. I think what you could do if you really want to be a little bit more deliberate is vary up your line weight a little bit. I'm noticing on the inner, like there's a concept in line weight where you want to make sure that the lines on the outside, like if you're doing a shape, let's look at these two shapes, right? So let's say I do, should do black here. Let's say I do a shape that looks like this, right? And then inside of the shape, I throw in some lines of the same thickness, right? But now let's say I do the same shape. Okay, it's not quite the same shape, but... And then on the inside, I make my lines very thin. You're just going to get a little bit more visual appeal with the other version. It's just going to feel less flat. Now, these shapes aren't exactly one-to-one, so it's not the most perfect example, but just trust that what I'm saying makes sense. So basically what I'm saying is your outer contour lines can be darker, which is what you have, but I would vary up the value difference between the outer contour lines and the inner lines. You don't need to go as dark with a lot of these lines. This one has a shadow, right? So if ever there's like shadow or overlap, it totally makes sense to do that. These lines here, these horizontal lines, I would go a little bit thinner on these. I know you've inked it, so there's not a whole lot you can do at this point. But just in the future, something to keep in mind. Watch also like areas like this, where you have sort of these, I'm going to do it in red. Watch areas like this, where you have a little bit of a line integrity fall off. It's going to be a lot nicer to have either like a partial line, where you like cut off and continue, but the flow feels like organic and it continues through, rather than having these sort of like bubbling lines that sort of overlap and distract. Overlap implies three-dimensionality, but because it's fabric here, you're not really gonna get all this three-dimensionality in here. Like, the three-dimensionality is gonna come from this piece itself, right? It's not gonna, you're not gonna have, like, unless it's, like, poorly stitched together, like, then I guess you would have that, but just watch some of that stuff, because I noticed that everywhere, where you kind of have, like, these inconsistencies a little bit everywhere, and stuff like that, but I kind of drew this piece inside of class, so I got the inking a bit rushed. That's all good, dude. Which is mainly why it's wobbly. Well, even, like, stuff like this. I don't know if you did this intentionally, but, like, this strikes me as odd as a choice. So I would just sort of watch, like, these sort of, like, wobbly lines. Especially if it's supposed to be, like, a piece of fabric. Anyways, just something to keep in mind. Reducing detail. Deciding which line is more important than the other line. So, deciding which lines you want to keep, which ones you want to get rid of. If you add a line, does it take away from your intention of the piece? As in, does it pull away from the viewer's focal area that you want them to look at? Let's be real. We want this to be the focal area, right? So everything else has to serve this, right? So that's sort of how you want to frame your mentality for when you're putting lines down. And, like, even these sort of, like, zippers here, they serve this piece. They help frame the face. All of your elements sort of frame. They're basically, like, directional lines going up to where you want the face to look. Or people to look, right? But so just be a little careful with that. But that's it, dude. I think it looks good in general. I don't know that you actually need to add more shadows or anything. I think you need to be a little bit cleaner. And I think you need to be a little bit more intentional with your line work. And that's really something that you'll get better at over time. But that would be my advice. In general, really solid, though. Insanely bored today. Why are you bored, Glad? Yeah, I'm originally a cartoonist, so drawing anatomy and things kind of get me that in that competitive mode where I want to make it as good as I can to rival larger artists, if you know what I mean. I get you, dog. I get you. Yeah, I think being competitive is a pretty valuable trait to have, especially when you want to improve. I will say, I used to be somebody who was, like, very competitive, and I would look at people online, and I was like, I gotta be better than so-and-so, and I still kind of do it. It's a little bit of a weakness of mine. But, you know, I find the most important thing is that you should be competing with yourself and your last best piece. Whatever the last best thing you did was, that should be the bar to beat every time. Because you're going to get a lot more out of competing with yourself than you are competing with strangers on the internet who have completely different goals and aspirations than you in art, right? Because art is really just sort of a reflection of you. That's what the output is. It's what you're interested in. It's what you're, like, drawn to. And I feel like you're going to get a lot of value by just sort of, like, fighting yourself rather than fighting everyone else. Used to be honest. You also used to be overly, like, concerned about everybody else? Is that what you're saying, Octogear? I mean, it's like it's sort of like natural to want to compare yourself to everybody you see online, especially with like social media. It's hard not to, right? But I feel like the best growth I've ever gotten was just trying to beat myself, because I know what I can do, and I know, like, by knowing what you can do, you kind of know where you can, like, what your bar is to be better than. I used to be honest, but I look at other artists as coworkers and sources of inspiration rather than competition. Not since junior high, when I suddenly had more artists in my class. Okay, yeah. I mean, I sort of see it that way too. It's hard though. I won't lie. With social media, the fuck thing with social media is that everything is basically like the top 1% of the 1%. And so you look at everything online and you're like, damn, dude, everybody's fucking god tier, dude. There's like 17-year-olds that are like basically master painters and shit all over my fucking Instagram. And it's like the craziest shit in the world. And you're like, man, I suck ass, bro. What is this shit? But the reality is, it's like hyper reality. It's not real. That's not like the normal distribution of skill in the world. You're being filtered like the best of the best, and it just makes you like feel like you need to compare yourself to everybody that you see online. But the reality is, it's just not. It's not a good reflection of real life, and so you're gonna drive yourself fucking insane, hyperfixating on that shit, and you're better off just sort of trying to fight yourself in a healthy way. Obviously, don't like tear yourself down or whatever, but you know your limits. Banyalta, thank you for the follow. Welcome in, big dog. She follow little old me. Exactly. Oh, when I suddenly had one more artist in my class? Okay, I see. You were the big fish in the small pond, is that what you're saying? And then your pond opened up to a river, and then you were swimming with another big fish? What the dog doing? Oh, he chilling. He chilling. You know, just putting it down, crazy style. Just fucking going gorilla mode up in this paint. You know me. You know how I get down. Kay Urana is the one I have my eyes on at the moment. I want to reach her level by the end of 2027. Oh, that's a lofty goal, dude. Let me see who that artist is. By the way, guys, if you guys ever think I'm having a schizophrenic episode and just talking out of nowhere, I'm reading YouTube chat. You guys can't see it. Just telling all the Twitch chatters. YouTube chat, you can see what Twitch is saying because it's on the screen, but the other way around does not work. Let's see who Kay Urana is. Kay Urana. I'm curious. Okay. She's pretty cracked. 2 years to get to like a really high skill level is it's a lofty goal. It's a lofty goal, I won't lie. The thing is, you can get good pretty fast. I'm like pretty convinced that you know, it only takes like a few years to really sort of get your skills up. You just got to be consistent. Grr, YouTube chat. No, be nice. Be nice. We love YouTube chat. YouTube chat's not real. Isn't Crunner also going to improve in 2 years as well? Probably. The thing is, I feel like art improvement is kind of like it's asymptotic, where you basically like you gain a lot of skill, and then the better you get, the less there is to learn. So you sort of start to not plateau, but you like get close to like an asymptotic line where you never quite reach that level, but you're always sort of chasing it. And I feel like growth over time, like you're gonna get the most growth in the first like 4 to 5 years, and then every growth you get after that is like it's gonna push you. Like, I don't actually know if that's true. You know what? Forget what I'm saying. I don't know if that's fully true, but... Shall I join Twitch? No, you're good over there, dude. You're my one concurrent viewer on YouTube right now. I need you. You're 100% of my viewership. But on the bright side, though, we became friends and we learned a lot from each other. She was the reason I actually decided to start with the fundamentals to begin with. Oh, I see. Okay, yeah, I never had that, like, art rivalry shit. Because I started drawing really late in life. I started drawing when I was like 23. I'm old as fuck now. I'm like 31. So I started drawing when I was 23 and just kind of had my own little grind phase. And then I went to art school. So I went from like the only fish in an empty pond to fucking a normal fish in a pond full of normal people and cracked people. Art school just kind of drops you into the deep end real quick. And I kind of, my ego shattered very quickly in art school. The funny thing is, though, you'll notice, like, even once you're done with art school, some people keep going and some people stop. And the ones that keep going are the ones that really get ahead. And you don't really know what you're capable of if you stop, you know? So just keep going. Are you gonna let him know how many hours he has to watch so you can hit monetization? That's right, Symphony. I need you to give me 4,000 concurrent watch hours in the next year so that I can start making money on YouTube. That way I could quit my fucking day job and I could do this all day. I could talk shit on Twitch all day. The dream, really. I should probably also draw. I've been, like, yapping and chatting so much. Okay, what am I doing? I'm, like, drawing the Sasuke hair now. Whoa, we got YouTube XP now? Shit, Shavik, how you doing, big dog? See, if I speak about YouTube chatters, they show up. That's the trick. I had years I didn't draw and I got serious again after five years ago. That was sort of me. I had like my little fucking art grind in art school, and then I had like once I joined the animation industry, I kind of like stopped drawing completely. Funny enough, I worked in rigged animation, so I didn't do any like hand drawing much, and I had like a big 3-year hiatus, and then I came back to drawing when I hurt my shoulder and started streaming on Twitch, and I made the most improvement in my entire life in the last year and a half, I think, genuinely. Real Rat 1000. Awesome name, dude. Would you recommend art school? I'm in my early 20s and also recently started learning to draw. I don't think there's a wrong answer. I think the answer is going to come down to the individual. I think Real Rat, you got to ask yourself, are you somebody who's like self-motivated? Can you learn on your own? Because if you can, if you're somebody who can learn on your own and you don't like necessarily need art school, then maybe you don't need art school. But there's a lot of like pros to going to art school. The big one is networking. And that's really going to be geography based, right? Like if you live in the middle of like fucking nowhere with no industry around you or no art industry, you can network, but the odds that you're going to get some sort of like employment out of that is going to be a lot less likely than somebody who's in like the heart of like LA or some sort of like very industry rich environment like Montreal or Toronto or Vancouver or whatever, you know, one of those cities. I'm in Canada, so that's sort of my frame of reference. But yeah, so art school is great for networking. It's great for setting a standard and making friends and all that stuff. I don't know that I would fully recommend going to art school outside of like having some sort of like guaranteed job route. That's really my gripe with art school. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. If you're from a family that just has money to burn, dude, and you can fucking, you know, go to school for funsies, then yeah, art school, go for it, dog. But if you've got some more hardcore real life decisions to make, where it's like you got to pay back big debt, and you know you need a job out of that, it's like I'm gonna say it's really geography based, and it's gonna depend on a case by case basis. That's what I would say. Like, I got lucky. I went to art school. My teacher got me a job in animation, and that's sort of how I got into the industry. But beyond that, it's not always the cleanest thing in the world. And also the animation industry, not to black pill anybody, but the animation industry is she's a fickle bitch. I'm just gonna be real with you, dude. If you like job stability and high pay and low work hours, it's probably not for you. If you like being a slave that gets your name in a Netflix credit, then you know, maybe join the animation industry. Depends on what you want. But I think it's good to have realistic expectations of art industries in general. You're gonna be working freelance a lot, and so there's gonna be gaps in sort of employment, and it's gonna be tough. And I don't work in animation anymore. I left, and I have a more stable job now. As I got older, I was like, I can't do this. I can't keep living in my dad's basement and just fucking, you know, working like for a studio. It's like, there were layoffs every like couple of years. Some of my friends never recovered and never got back into the industry. It was just sketch, dude. Was it rewarding? Do I like doing that more than what I do now, like professionally? Yeah, 100%. But you know, pros and cons. Your values change as you get older. You're early 20s though, so you got lots of time to fuck up and start over. Jadu Arts on YouTube says, so this is what it's like to have no power. That's right. You're stripped of your mod powers on YouTube. We just got like one guy on YouTube who's a mod that I met for like a day. And I was like, you know what? I get like no YouTube traction. Fuck it, you're my mod. Symphony says, people say my art is AI, and especially my animation, and that kind of got me in trouble. And how do I fix that? I swear I don't use it like I draw my frames. Well, I just tell people whenever they accuse me of AI art, I just tell them I'll give them my prompts. They just gotta DM me. Alright? My entire live stream is basically just like a never-ending Sora video. None of it's real. I'm not real. My voice is AI. Nothing's real. You shouldn't trust reality. But no, honestly, if people are accusing you of AI, I don't really... I mean, laugh at it, I guess. Unless you're using AI, then don't do that, but... Generally speaking, like, if you're being accused of AI, you're probably doing something right. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing right now. I like drawing, and I've been drawing for free at an insane rate already, so I don't know, the concept of getting paid is sounding a little sweet. Yeah, okay. The reality is, like... Starting to make money off of your hobby or the thing that you're passionate about is awesome. And it's great. But it also, like most things, humans sort of adapt and we hit homeostasis. And then the things that were awesome and got our dicks hard before, just don't do they don't do it for us anymore, you know? And I feel like working in art is awesome until you start doing it, and then it kind of like gets old. And then, you know, you start looking for the other aspects outside of that. When the fucking dopamine rush and the honeymoon phase wears off, you start looking outside of the industry and you're like, man, all of my friends that went into fucking tech have like houses and like jobs and like all this shit or like whatever. So it's like the grass is always going to be greener. Making money is better than making no money. Making money doing something you love is better than making the same amount of money doing something you hate. You know, there's always going to be trade-offs. It's just going to come down to you, what your risk tolerances are, what your like preferences are, what you want for your life, how you perceive yourself. I can't give you like the answer and be like, you got to do this way, and this is the secret to life. You got to kind of just make that choice for yourself. And I think that just sort of applies to everything. You can make educated, like I could give you like enough information to make an educated guess though, but you never really know what you're gonna get into until you do it, right? So I don't know. This is very vague advice. I'm vague posting right now, but I think learning on my own is probably the best then, as I don't really have the money to throw away. I'm also in New Brunswick, Canada, and I'm not sure how well connected I'll be able to get there. Thanks for the answer. I do think there is actually like an industry out east. I do think like you may need to move to like Quebec, Ontario, or BC though if you want to be like in the heart of the industries. But I do think there are some animators out of New Brunswick. I know there's some YouTubers that like do animation on YouTube that work out of New Brunswick. I don't know if they're in New Brunswick, but they're definitely out east. Humans just can't be happy, man. I know. But maybe I'll be happy if I make more money. That's sort of how I feel right now. I would rather be rich and miserable than poor and miserable, that's for sure. Sage advice, fellow Unk. Hey, you know how I do. You know me. Symphony says, education's the route for me. I don't see a way around it, to be honest. Look, there is also a very strong argument to having a degree, okay? And, you know, a lot of people poo-poo on art degrees, but a lot of the times your employer is not really going to give a fuck whether you have an art degree or any other type of degree unless you're doing a very specialized job. So you could also check like what the sort of qualification standards are for whatever industry you're a part of or whatever industries are around you. And if a lot of them tend to have sort of a requirement for having a bachelor's degree or some sort of degree in general, then, you know, maybe you could just pursue art and then use that to join a different industry later on. It really depends. It really depends on sort of where you are, what your options are. Do some research, you know? Ask older people in your environment. Ask your parents, ask their friends. Find out what the people that have the things that you want have and figure out what they did, you know? Same way you'd learn a new art style or learn how to draw something new. You kind of just explore the things that have already been done and shadow those footsteps. But Ask Bezos. I'm pretty sure he'll never be happy, and that's why he's hoarding wealth. Yeah, he seems so miserable on his, like, 100-foot yacht, you know? Fuck, dude. I feel bad for the guy, really. It's fucked up. Partying with models on my 150-foot yacht, just... I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy, to be quite honest. Money can't buy you happiness. Must have been because you don't have enough money. That's true. You know what I say? I say, let me try it. You know, let me dip my toe into having endless money, and then I'll make my judgments from there. I got fucking work on Monday, and I don't want to do that. But follow Snack. He has a good lifestyle. That's right. That's right. Hey, when Elon gets his first trillion, maybe he'll find how much happiness actually costs. Oh, boy. Rich people can afford therapy. Case closed. Yeah, you just don't get it, dude. Being rich is so hard. You don't know if people love you for you or for your money, you know? It's just such a struggle. Us poors, we don't get it, guys. We just don't get it. This is like peasant thinking, you know? We're just chasing the wrong things. Symphony says, in Algeria, art rests in a dark, damp corner with me. Currently, I'm in high school. I study languages, and hopefully I go to study law next year if I get my diploma. Ah, Symphony, you said the big bad words, dude. We're an 18+ channel. I gotta say, dog. If you're not over the age of 18, unfortunately, this is gonna have to be the end of our sort of communication. It is in sort of the rules on all of my streams, unfortunately. Tragically. I'm 19? Oh, you're safe. You live to see another day. Whew. Whew. That was a close one, guys. I thought we had to fucking nuke our boy for 2 seconds there. Oh, man, I like that guy. Sweet. There you go. GG's. Don't worry. I'm not worried. I was for, like, half a second there, though. Please don't dox that you're 12 like me. I am totally 13. Pete, I know you're not, but, you know. It is always funny, though, when people come in and then they read the rules and they're like, hey, I'm 16 years old, by the way, and I'm trying to figure out how the hell I do this one thing. Can you help me out? And it's like... in the future, maybe. See ya. Snack really hates miners. I'm just not a big fan of the coal industry, you know? I think electric is where it's at. Read the rules. Amen, Taco. Okay, guys, should I fucking draw something? I've just been yapping for the last, like 3 hours. I haven't drawn shit. I said I was going to end stream at the 4-hour mark, so, you know, this is going to basically be a no drawing stream. I really don't know what kind of hair to give this chick. Okay, I'm gonna... the auto-mind caught this message. I'm gonna allow it because I think it's funny, but... Much better stance than the streamers who love miners. Yes, that is certainly true. That's a good bit. Okay. I'm gonna wipe the hair. I don't think this hair is, like, working for me. I'm gonna tweak it, and we're just gonna fucking do some other shit. I really don't know what to do. I should probably look at reference. I should probably do what I preach, and, you know, whenever I'm struggling, look at something, but... It's almost the end of stream, so I'm not gonna take it too seriously. Asymmetrical bob, maybe? Oh, like, something like this. Style study like me, Snack? It's too late in the day, dude. I'm wrapping up pretty soon, you know? If it were the start of stream, maybe I'd do a little study sesh. Give her Tamari Naruto hair. What's Tamari's hair look like again? She's kind of got like she's got like this thing going on, right? And then it's like a lot of these. Is that it? Maybe the miners were the ones we made along the way. Maybe. Cassandra Cain type of haircuts. Lots of good advice. All right, let me see what Cassandra Cain is. Cassandra Cain. Okay. Okay, so it's basically like a bob. I didn't even know there was like a chick Batman. That joke was enough. I gotta go. Alright, peace, Glad. Thanks for popping in, dude. Okay, I'm gonna try and give her a bob, and then we'll just go from there. I'm probably just gonna wrap up stream soon, though. Something like that. I'm a huge DC fan. I've never been a big comic book guy. I have like a pretty big manga collection. I'm gonna be honest, I kind of like fell off of like just like fiction stuff in general as I got older. I feel like with anime, and I've sort of like griped about this quite a few times, but I feel like anime these days just kind of fucking sucks. I think it's all like rehashed. It's the same shit over and over. It's always like fucking some demon within storyline or some superpower story. It's just boring. There's no original shit in like media these days, it feels like. Actually, that's not true. There's no like original shit in like anime media. But maybe I'm just not watching the right stuff, you know? Belated Happy New Year to you, Snack. Belated Happy New Year to you too, Trusty. How you doing, big dog? DC Sandman comics, brother, go read that. I swear, it's your whole view for the world will change. It's the best comic I read in my life, and it happens on a metaphysical plane. I feel like I'm just not like I don't fucking pog out enough to like fiction anymore. I feel like I used to. Which animes are your favorites? Look, I'm like a classic guy, all right? I'm pretty old school, and I feel like the second I start talking about my favorite anime, everything I just said is gonna sound hypocritical, and it is, okay? Because I love Naruto, I love fucking like Full Metal Alchemist, I love what else do we got? I mean, basically all the classics, the golden era. I watched a lot of One Piece, but the issue is not that I don't like the sort of like demon within like storylines. It's that I just feel like they're overdone. I feel like every fucking season there's like a new like Chainsaw Man or like Jujutsu Kaisen. It's all the same shit, you know? Snack only watches YouTube documentaries. Honestly, if you guys knew the shit I watched, you'd be bored out of your minds, dude. I don't watch anything very interesting. I watch like travel vlogs and political commentators. It's miserable. It's stuff that would have everybody in chat arguing all the time, and it's nothing worth worrying about. Have you watched ReZero? I tried. Couldn't get into it. I watched like 2 episodes and I was like, I'm just not really feeling it. I'm just not really an anime guy these days. I think I don't know. I want to say I've grown out of it. I don't know. I feel like when I stopped smoking weed, I just like stopped consuming anime. Chill on Chainsaw Man though, it's spectacular. I mean, I've seen all of it. It didn't really like blow me away or anything. It's really well animated, but it's not like some crazy unique story or anything like that. Frieren was all right. Oh shit. I feel like those are fighting words with chat, dude. I've never seen it, so I'm gonna default to agreeing with you, just because it's fun to trigger chat. But unless you mean all right in the sense that it was actually good. Just don't get me talking about Ghibli, and I think, you know, I think we'll keep things civil in chat. Glad loved Ghibli. Well, Glad left, so. Actually, I had the same problem with ReZero. I tried like 4 separate times to get into it, and it was so hard. I didn't manage to get past the first 3 episodes, and then all of a sudden it got really good, and I was hooked. For some reason, the beginning was just a struggle. Okay. You haven't grown out of it. It's just people have been trying to ruin it with dumb politics and rage bombing over the author. Enjoyable. First half was pretty good. Yo, I joined the Discord. Were you not already in there? I'm at Twitch. Oh yeah, okay. That makes sense. I was like, I just gave you feedback on your work earlier. Swear to God, you were already in there. Now I gotta hear the Ghibli hot take. My Ghibli hot take is, I mean, it's every single time I say it, chat loses their mind and they tell me I'm wrong, but I think Ghibli's animation is nice. I think his environment design is nice. I think his character design is bland, and I think his plots are terrible. And I think I can barely make my way through any Ghibli movie. They're the most boring fucking movies I ever watched, dude. They look pretty, but they're just so fucking boring. Princess Mononoke is pretty good. Spirited Away, dude, I had to watch that shit like on 3 separate occasions just to try and get through it. It was like, I was like, when does this shit like get interesting? It's just like things happening for the sake of them happening. I don't know. They're like, it just, there's no plot. I don't know. I look, whatever, dude. I can't get into like Ghibli conversations. I haven't watched Ghibli in a long, long time at this point. So anything I say is going to be based off of like faded memories. But it is also fun to trigger chat. So have you tried Porco Rosso? I have not. I'm gonna be real. Anime has the problem of reusing the same bullshit over and over. Yeah, that's sort of my gripe. It just kind of feels like every new anime is just like a reskin of a previously existing anime, just like with like a minor plot twist or like I don't know. It's not like I don't know. I love Ghibli, but I see what you mean. My Neighbor Totoro felt like 2 hours of nothing. I couldn't finish that one. I tried watching Totoro. I watched like an hour of it, and I was like. I was like, nah, I can't keep doing. I don't even think I watched a full hour. I just couldn't do it. Yeah, like Bleach, where Ichigo has no personality, and he just does what he does because he was asked to do it, and he barely makes any of his own choices. It's been so long since I watched Bleach. I don't have any like strong opinions on it, just because it's been a long ass time, but. Porco Rosso's pretty peak. All right, maybe I'll peep it one day. If somebody recommends it to me, you know, maybe I'll watch it. But I feel like I've seen enough Ghibli movies at this point that they just don't really interest me too much. And I feel like everybody's like love for it is just like it's like clouded by nostalgia. Because I feel like if they came out today, they probably wouldn't even be that crazy. They're really, really well animated and they're beautiful to look at. But it's like, I don't know. It's kind of boring. I do feel like for that reason, when an anime truly comes up with something unique as a concept, I love it way harder. Gotcha. Ponyo is really cool. That's like one of the movies that I really think about as like absolutely no plot existing in it. Like Ponyo was like, it just didn't make sense. I can't remember it at this point, but I remember watching it and being like, what the fuck did I just watch? All I remember. How about the Castle of Cagliostro? Never seen it. Frieren, Vinland Saga, Mob Psycho. They spin these concepts into ways that I've never seen before, and I've never seen done since. Yeah, Mob Psycho is pretty good. I'll give it up to Mob Psycho. The main character is literally a pig that smokes cigarettes and punches Nazis. Trust me, it's different. All right, well I'm kind of hooked now. That's appealing. That's how you sell it to me, dude. You had me at based pig. Yeah, that's Porco Rosso. He also flies a fighter plane and battles air pirates. Actually, I have a funny story about Porco Rosso. By the way, this is a terrible idea. Don't ever do this. But I had a date. This was during the pandemic. I went on a date with some chick. Except it was like a virtual date. Because it was the pandemic and we were all locked in like our apartments or whatever. And she recommended we watch Porco Rosso. And we watched like 2 minutes of it, and then we were like, this is a terrible date format. We probably shouldn't watch a movie on a first date. We should probably actually get to know each other. Ultimately, she told me she had a Family Guy tattoo, and she was obsessed with Family Guy, and I don't know. I don't hate Family Guy that much, but that was such a weird thing to be like a hardcore fan of. I'm sure she was a lovely girl, but we didn't have a second date. It was a strange experience. What up, Steve? How you doing, big dog? For those who don't know, Steve Sketch is also a fantastic artist here on Twitch. He was I was chilling in his chat like yesterday, I think, for a little bit after Anthony Wheeler raided in. It depends on the character she got tattooed with. She got tattooed with the fucking Disney version of the Family Guy episode where like Peter's like sniffing like pie or whatever. I can't remember. Like she described it as like I watched Family Guy when I was younger, but it's been a long time since I've watched Family Guy. But I don't think anyone's ever called me that before. What? Nobody's called you a fantastic artist? You're lying. Don't lie to me. Don't lie to me. Is there one wholesome character in Family Guy? Oh, Big Dog. Oh shit. Okay, yeah, that's me. I got the fucking shawarma man effect. I call everybody boss and Big Dog. I don't know why. It's just like must be the Lebanese in me, you know? The tahini runs in my veins. It's still strange that she's a Family Guy mega fan. Yeah, it is. She was from Quebec though, so I don't know. Their culture is very different than mine. I don't necessarily fully understand it. So, hey, fellow Arab. I mean, I'm like a little bit Arab. I'm like a quarter Lebanese. I'm mostly French Canadian though. But I do have the like the fucking I got the caramel look, you know? I got the olive skin tone. I kind of have like an Italian look to me a little bit. People always ask me if I'm like Spanish or something. I'm not. I didn't know Snack was an exotic specimen. I'm not. I'm a white boy from Canada. I grew up playing hockey, okay? Me drawing anime characters is like the most exotic I get. I promise. I look Mediterranean as fuck. Dope, dope. He's spicy mayo white. I'm like garlic mayo, you know? Fuck, you guys are making me hungry. Also, Steve, I know you just showed up. We were talking about just wrapping up stream pretty soon. I was gonna wrap up at the 4-hour mark. Probably still gonna do that. But I appreciate you popping in. Appreciate everybody popping in on that note. Nobody's whiter than me. Absolute vanilla ice cream. Damn. You radiant. You glow in the light. Don't stay late on my account. I won't. Don't worry. I actually do have to take off. I'm hungry, you know? But what were you up to? Were you streaming today? I don't think I saw you online. I wasn't really paying attention, though. Hello, a fellow Lebanese here, too. What up, Germs Art? How you doing, big dog? I'm changing with the seasons like a chameleon, white and pink in winter and brown in summer. I get orange. I don't know, when I tan, I like turn orange. I don't burn. Unless it's like the back of my neck, then I get the shit burned out of me. Also on my nose, but otherwise not really. No, watching the kids, I streamed almost 11 hours yesterday. Bruh. I streamed like 4 hours and then I tell my audience that they have it so good, okay? I tell them how lucky they are for getting me for 4 hours. I can't imagine doing an 11-hour stream. That's crazy. I just don't have the energy, you know? I feel like after the 4-hour mark, I'm kind of ready to just go do other shit. Or, it's also because I feel like I don't get a lot of focused work done when I stream. So sometimes streaming is really good to get me, like, primed to draw off stream. And so I carry my momentum from stream off stream, and I continue my drawings there, where I can get it a little bit more polished without sort of, yapping constantly and getting distracted. I don't tan? Oh, no. Wow, Snack, VTuber confirmed Lebanese mouse? That's right. I'm not actually a white mouse. I'm a Lebanese mouse. But I figure while we're stealing Valor, we might as well do it for everything. So that's why I LARP as a furry on the internet. But the reality is I'm nowhere near a furry. You will never be white. That sounded like you said that with spite, dude. What the hell? I don't know if I should be offended by that or not. Do you recommend us to stream too? Or, hey, dude, if you want to stream, you're more than welcome to. I'm not saying you gotta stream, I'm not saying you don't. It really just comes down to whatever you want. Not a furry, unfollowed. I howl for money, but that's it, okay? That's as good as it gets. I don't know how, as a black man, I'm a person of color when the Caucasian folk change like the fucking rainbow. White people love diversity, dude. What can I say? Okay, guys, I think it's about that time to wrap up. Let's see who we can raid out to. Let's see who's online. We might raid... We could raid Young Khan. I feel like I haven't raided him in a while. Let's see. Yeah, we'll raid out to Young Khan. I was in his chat the other day also, so we'll raid out to him, and I will catch you all tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern Time for the next stream. And I appreciate everybody coming out. It's been a fun day today. It was awesome. If you guys want to know when I'm going live, make sure you're in the Discord. That way you can get the live notification roll. To get the live notification roll, you just basically go into the rules section and select it. And that way you can also get feedback from me on your work and all that good stuff. Blah, 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 blah. Ad segment over. I will see you all tomorrow. Thank you all for coming out, guys. Peace out, everybody. Bye-bye.